is going on, guys? It's Yogi. Welcome to Hilariously Casual Non-trihard Podcast episode 13. This is going to be horribly wrong because we believe in superstition and that's how stuff works, right? And I'm here with Project PT as always. Still here.
He can't get rid of me yet. Not yet.
I have not found anything that works. I'm a chemist. I know a lot of things to get rid of people and things, but this guy immune. Just immune. But we also have Nugi on the positive side of things, which is super awesome. You might have seen him before. He used to play a lot of PoE. Now he just plays PoE occasionally, it seems. Plays a lot of other games.
Something like that right now.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's good.
So right before this, we were actually discussing not Path of Exile related stuff, and it was the changes to World of Warcraft in terms of the raid system, and I wanted kind of Nugi to keep going with that.
Okay. So basically, what's because I was not even aware of this coming into Legion, which is the new expansion. I was just kind of hyped for the expansion as a whole, of what they're promising, and so far they've delivered. But the way the rating works now, like we all remember, like we had the 40 man, then the 40 and the 20 man, and then we had the 25 and 10. But now there is, for normal mode and for heroic mode, there is flexible raids. So if you have 10, that's okay. If you have 30, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It scales, because they can now scale the encounter to match from 10 to 30. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
And then on Mythic, it's always set on 20, which is the hardest difficulty. And so they can balance that and really fine tune it for 20 people, right? So you can't just stack one class and then get a huge advantage with the flexible, like you can in the flexible one. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how it works right now, which is really nice, because let's say you want to try some new faces in some raids, and you have a full roster already, but you really want to see how they play. But you're still in the phase where you're doing heroic content and that actually matters to you. Now, let's say you just have your 20-man roster for Mythics. You can take 2 or 3 extra people in there in your heroic run, and you don't have to bench anyone at the same time.
What's the difficulty difference between the heroics and the Mythic?
Oh, it's substantial.
Okay. Yeah, because I was remembering the most annoying thing before was always creating a new rotation of like the 10 or the 25 man, and like, okay, so you have to bench out for this week because we need to try this out, and then someone who's legitimately put in tons and tons of effort, has to not play the game because we need to hear someone.
I think in terms of raid setup and being in those situations, it's upon you as a raid leader or as a team to really decide whether or not that's okay, like for your players, and to probably inform your players that if you don't have alts to fit situations, you might get benched. Because like in very hard tier raiding guilds, you will have the 20 people that will always be there. You're probably gonna have 1 or 2 on standby, but it's gonna be the same people for the most part, and they will have alts that are then prepared. So you never get, like, you as a player don't get benched, but your character will, and then you bring in your alt to fit the role that's needed. So at the high tier, I think that's mostly something that should affect the really high tier guilds.
Okay. Well, like, it's Yoji hasn't played World of Warcraft, I believe.
Okay.
No, right? I played like a weekend trial in the first version of World of Warcraft. That's all I ever played of that game. I basically know absolutely nothing except for the storyline background.
So then how about for now then we just segue it into Path of Exile for a bit.
Sure, we can do that.
All right, Yoji, what do you want to bring up?
What I want to bring up, honestly, I'm a bit curious why you haven't played as much PoE. Is it just that WoW was more interesting, or was there anything in PoE that you were like, not really interested in the new content, new stuff? Because there's a lot of like new stuff happening, right?
Yes, I've seen it. I've tested it. I've been very I was really torn between playing PoE and playing WoW, and then maybe doing a 50-50 or an 80-20 or something like that. It's not like there is something that I feel like it's missing in PoE. When I look at the game, I think it's done like this. Like latest, like Atlas have done leaps and bounds to push the core game a lot further. But there isn't anything right now in PoE that compels me to play a lot. Sure, I could set up to kill Shaper.
Yep.
It's still in the main league. I've always enjoyed the kind of the speedrunning aspect of PoE within week races in general. Having to build a character towards something like PvP, to where it's like you have a character that has like, because I think when I look at PoE, I've never been the biggest fan of going for the absolute end game in terms of PvE, i.e. Shaper and what's that other thing called?
Yeah, you like you.
At Siri. I never really. It's like I think it's great that it's there, and I always want to have it there so that I can just kind of stumble into it at some point. But it's never really my main focus. I'm more about like the ladders and the competitive aspect. Yeah.
All right.
Even there's a competitive aspect in getting that down first, but it just doesn't speak to me in the same way as like a ladder or a leaderboard. So that's kind of because there isn't that thing in PoE anymore. Because the main thing that drives me away from PoE is the lack of
Competitive support.
Support for just racing. That's like the lack of support for racing and the fact that they just pretty like scrapped an entire season like out of the blue.
Yeah, that annoyed a lot of people.
Because I don't trust them anymore to bring back racing again. I just don't trust them.
Well, that was one of the things that I was talking about earlier. Is I'm like, is there going to be a season this?
Yeah. Do you know? No. And they already said, hey man, like we're gonna fix this. We're gonna make it better. And what have they? I haven't heard anything.
What I heard in general is that the last race season, although it was pretty similar, it was like supposedly, according to most races I've talked to, the best race season we've had. Like Rai said that when he was on the podcast, and Ziz also I talked to.
Which one was the last one?
The medallion race season.
2.3.
I did that, right? I did some of that.
Yeah, you did some of it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the race. Yeah, I enjoyed the racing stuff there. But there wasn't anything. It was just same old.
Yeah, it was just a new race season. Like in the old format, just executed better. There was like more different races. It was just in general more variety there, but it was still the old system, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But like for like the competitive aspect of it and building a leaderboard and stuff like that, like nobody know. Like I don't know, like how many people honestly like know who's like top 10. Like if you look through the community, like can you name me like the like at least 2 names in the top 10 from the last season?
Probably Rise.
Weigel, Crame.
But you're even like you're tentative about it, right? Because you don't know, you just know the names that should be there, but you have no clue whether or not they actually are.
It's like I know that Rise is definitely there because he was number 1 for a while, and then he was like trickling down when he.
Right? Can you name me 2 ones that have never streamed that are up there?
Has Steel streamed? Does that?
I don't think Steel has ever streamed.
Okay, so Steel. Aha! I win.
Wait, was 1, 2. No, I don't think.
Shit.
I think most of them might actually be streamers as well, because nobody who doesn't stream has the time to put in.
I don't know. There are people who put in the time. Trust me, there are that never stream ever.
There's a lot of extremely skilled, dedicated. Accomplished players that don't care about streaming. That's I can fully agree that I like competitive games, but I've never got into Path of Exile's competitive side because it doesn't feel like I'm competing, even if I'm trying to compete. It's just like it almost feels like I'm just doing shadow runs of my own time, and that's not the same thing.
Yeah. So I think there's been like a real lack of just creating like from grinding gear side, just a real lack of really creating hype about their own events and creating like a sense of a community around them. Because I don't think really there is a sense of community around them, and there isn't good tools to like to give us, and we can't spectate, there's so many things we can't do that I remember having a conversation with Chris 4 years ago when he said that this was something that they wanted to implement. Right? They never promised anything, but they definitely they were reassuring in the sense that these are things we definitely want to like. They had high hopes for it and they wanted to do this and that, but I feel like it's everything that just happens is if it's not picture perfect and they don't have great skins and it's not something you can publish in that way, it's just not good enough.
Then I wonder if maybe some of the lack of support for the kind of competitive style of things is they put a decent, I don't know empirically how much, but it looked like they put a decent push when PvP first came out, and you brought that up earlier. And PvP, what happened, and I'm not saying PvP in general, but the implementation, the response to it was an utter fucking failure. I think PvP is a great thing to happen in this game, but when you look at how it was implemented,
you wanna push that. You wanna push a thing like PvP naturally.
Yeah, it was too forced. It was way too forced.
Yeah, you wanna incentivize players to go there themselves.
Yeah, and not just be like, here's a lot of PvP and a season out of nowhere, and it just the PvP season, the first one, just showed that there wasn't as many players as the season kind of expected. And it felt like the PvP push made PvP seem more dead than it actually even was, or like made it more apparent that it was kind of like not very popular. Which were kind of like
PvP is a very niche thing.
Yeah, it is a niche thing.
But it's that in the same point in time, and what you were kind of talking about, the competitive stuff. Competitive is by definition niche. Even if you want to try to pretend to be competitive, only a percentage of people can be the top 10.
Yes.
Because of this. But it does offer a lot of advertisement potential.
Yeah.
And
sure.
That's where I think is often kind of ignored. And like, yes, there is, because of the lack of PvP support, there's not a lot of players within the community who really are fully engaged into the PvP because they haven't had that support. That doesn't mean that there's nobody in the ARPG communities that want PvP. That was the biggest complaint, or one of the biggest complaints with D3 launch was, where's the PvP?
Like the thing is, I think one of this is something I've talked to length with other people in the past with PvP, and I think in the way you want to have it in Diablo, it came naturally, and the reason why it came naturally in Diablo 2, not in Diablo 3. But in Diablo 2,
Diablo 3 has the most fluid, natural PvP I've ever seen.
You literally walked out of town and you could hostile people. Every single zone where you were engaging with other people, you had the option of PvPing them.
Yeah.
So just because the option was there, why don't I just try it out? Oh, I'm trading. Oh, they're outside. They're PvPing. You see people dying, right? It's like there's no real there isn't a. You don't have to take an extra step. You don't have to queue up for a ranked PvP session where now you are. It's just this little. Oh, we're just having a little fight over here. Nobody has to know, right? Nobody's gonna see my score. It's very intimidating to step into an arena and then be judged.
Yeah. There's also kind of like the expectation that if you step into an arena and there's someone there and you're like, okay, I'm just like trying this out and there's someone there who probably plays this a lot. Like that's kind of like the expectation I would go in with it. It's like if I queue up with PvP, I'll probably get matched with someone who like does this sometimes and probably wrecks me anyway. So why even try? I think that might be a problem as well. When I'm just like going out of Sarn and just like whack someone who's there, like why not?
And also, it might be a kind of an odd thing to look at it that way, since it's not in the intrinsic menu options and you can like queue up. Or is it Groose that has a PvP queue in Act 2? There's so many people. Well, yeah, there's Leo, but I think there's a lot of people who actually just legitimately didn't even know you could PvP.
The whole where you help or. Well, all the bandits, right?
Yeah.
All the bandits
that's the shittiest implementation of PvP I've ever seen.
Yes. Yeah, because it basically encourages a lot of griefing, but
yeah,
again, that is kind of some of the fun of it, right?
Oh, I
think
agree. Griefing is awesome, but you can't even grief in this game. Like the only thing you
it's
got for
very
griefing
difficult,
is
at least.
you can like DD chest a portal and try to bait somebody into it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
when I used to be new to PoE, there used to still be like the selling Act 2 rushes thing where people would just kill you at the bandits. That was definitely a thing. that was pretty cool. I never fell for it, but I had friends like be like, I bought like an Act 2 rush and now I'm dead. That was super awesome. But yeah, I don't even know if I wasn't in D2 because I also didn't play T2. I didn't play any of the awesome old games, like not at all.
Is like Path of Exile the only game you've played and you're like, yeah, I'm a gamer?
The thing is, like before that time, we didn't have a PC, so I like saved up as a kid and bought a console. So I played like SNES and PlayStation mainly in my childhood. So I didn't play any of the good PC games. I only played like Final Fantasies and like Chrono Trigger and whatnot, which are good games, but
Shit games. No, never heard of them.
all those shitty games nobody knows. So how was it? Was that possible in hardcore as well? That you could just like walk outside of town, kill someone basically, and then he's half dead?
So you in D2 you couldn't. Well, there are ways you could exploit the system and you could actually bug it out, and there were like portal PKs and stuff like that. But in general, you can't trigger hostility unless you're in town.
Okay.
And then you can't take the TP back. So you can't TP next to someone, then hostile, then take the TP back. You would have to walk there.
Okay, so you would have to like put on hostile in town and then like walk through all the areas and like find them but you could just do that. Like you could just like go outside and find people to kill in hardcore.
Yeah.
That's
if they
pretty
didn't like
intimidating.
Immediately chicken out and just leave the game.
Yeah, that's just like you just see like you walk around there like and you see like people logging out left and right.
You're hostile. Yeah.
And everyone disappearing. That sounds cool.
Well, it was like I actually enjoy any time that I've done it for a short period of time. The cutthroats have been quite fun, right?
Sure.
And I don't understand, and this kind of talks about the difference between forcing PvP and making it come naturally. I'm surprised there isn't just I think I mentioned it actually before on this podcast, like every Saturday a cutthroat for like an hour. And it's the difference between trying to force something and just giving people the tools to do it naturally. I don't see why that would be a huge issue, both in terms of implementation or causing issues.
I don't think PvP works very well in PoE in just a
cutthroat format.
Yeah, I don't think the format is very good. I think it's fun, but the thing is, like the way you scale, the way people scale, like the character scales and power, is solely through items, right? And gems and the correct links. When you die, you drop everything. You have to find everything new. Like if you die once in Cutthroat, you're done.
Yep.
You can't get back. You're done. You quit the race because how will I ever beat this guy who will now one-shot me like 3 times over?
You killed me in the last Cutthroat, and that was the end of my character.
Yes. In D2, a lot of the power was there was a lot more power in your character through levels and skill ups on the tree.
Yeah.
And less so on the items. So because of that disparity of power, I think PvP works not as well in PoE as it did in D2. And
also because your skills are actually items on your character that you lose on death.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big point as well. I think as well as like support gems and stuff. Because if you don't have if you drop from a 4-link to a 3-link, for example, and you have to like re-level your gems, that's so much power gone.
No, I think one of the issues with cutthroats that they've done is when they do long cutthroats. Because I think cutthroats in a short period of time would if they just lock it at the end as Merveil. But when they've done longer cutthroats and you can get to cruel difficulty or merciless difficulty, you die. Good luck with your resists, because now you can't do anything.
Mm-hmm. No, you're done. You're done. The format can't be implemented in the same way because it's just because itemization is such a huge part in PoE. Mm-hmm. Or items in general are such a huge part in PoE. So if you lose that, you're out.
That's a pretty good point, yeah.
Trying to think if you... Well, in that way, I still like Cutthroat, but I do agree that Cutthroat...
No, I think it
needs to be a much smaller window.
Yeah, like you said, I can see a Vaal race or like a Vaal kill race, Cutthroat race, for example, happening like every week. Or even Descent. You could do like Descent race.
Yeah. Or you have to like kind of like rethink how to punish players for dying.
Yeah, maybe just not make them drop all the things. That could help.
Yeah.
Maybe make you drop like one random equip item or something like this.
Maybe
Not your
you
gems.
maybe you score differently. Maybe there are objectives that you need to compete for. And you don't lose all your gear, but there are like these things that you will compete for, and like there are things that you can do where there's a scoring system where you can actually catch up even though you're behind.
I think
That's what you want to incentivize if you want to do that kind of thing.
I actually think that's a very valid point, because when you can talk about issues with a Cutthroat, because so much is gear and leveling, and because the distance that your character has progressed offers greater gear and greater stats, if someone's above you, they can just hunt you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly.
You can, the only thing you can do is like go somewhere where he doesn't think you will be level, like grind another zone until he leaves, basically. Which is
Yeah, but you can do /whois though. You can hunt people.
Yeah, they should disable that for Cutthroat then, because I think that makes it too easy. Like hunting is not fun if you just always find them. that's not how hunting should work.
Well, I think honestly, I think one of the issues is that they're trying to make PvP balanced, and they're trying to make PvP like a thing where we have like, I don't even know what it is. It's just a very it doesn't fit with the game. Like just keep PoE as like this unbalanced mess for PvE and just leave it at that. I think that's fine. But then I think one of the things that D2 did that PoE doesn't is that all the PvP just came from you walking out, right? And it was kind of clear where you had to go. If you want to go to the Sun Arena, you don't know if anyone's in there. You have to walk, like it's not next to any waypoint, so you have to walk to Act 3, then up these huge stairs into a doorway. And I bet you that there's probably, I don't know, like 50% of the population at least doesn't even know that doorway is there, that there is something called Sun Arena.
I think so as well.
Right? In D2, you just walked out into the starting area. And also with hideouts, we don't meet each other anymore. So
no, I hate that about hideouts.
Yeah, towns are just more empty now. That's definitely a thing as well. I mean, maybe if you could like invade someone's hideout and beat them up, that would be fun. Like take it over, steal it. That would be cool.
If you could do duels, create lab trap setups in your hideout for a dueling arena, I would fucking do that all day, every day. Because lab traps are stupid. Lab traps in PvP are fucking amazing.
I love that idea. Like you could go to someone else's hideout and challenge them in their hideout. Like just appear, be like, "Yo, I will fight you to death," and then you like go into like he runs into his trap gauntlet and you like hunt him down and try to kill him, and he tries to kill you. And then if you beat someone in his hideout, there's like a poll there where everyone who has beaten the hideout owner is on the poll and how often. That would be cool. So you can be like, I've beaten this guy, or you can be like, there are only 2 people who've ever killed me in my hideout. And it's
like an arena in your hideout would be amazing, right? Be cool. Your own self-created one that would actually be really fun. And the thing, a few people said in the chat that I don't like Sun Arena. I think Sun Arena is great, but I think the implementation of it's terrible.
It's hidden.
Yeah,
that's the first problem. It's actually
terrible.
hidden away.
Let's say that let's say that there was a small let's say in Act 3, right? There was a boat taking you there, or like right next to the waypoint. You could see that there was an arena guy, and he would like, if there's someone in there, he would be cheering. If there's no one in there, he would just be standing still. Something like that, just to show that there are people playing. I should go check it out.
I don't know if it exists in the current, but in vanilla Burning Crusade, World of Warcraft, Stranglethorn Vale's arena, where there's an announcement and something spawns. If like put a loot chest in Sarn Arena every 3 hours and a global announcement, and I'd be like, oh yes, because then that's dumb fun PvP where everyone goes, and they have the programming for a chest that requires channeling to touch it without being hit, because we've all done the shitty Varici quests.
Yes.
Spawn that in the middle and
make it
free-for-all loot it.
And making rewarding.
Put divination cards in it, a free-for-all divination card thing.
Just like make it a random Uber Lab chest or something. Like bam maps, bam divination cards, bam 84 bases. Just like something that people actually give a shit for. Level 20 gems, whatever.
Well, someone in chat is like PvP in a hack and slash games and is being sarcastic. I'm like, did nobody play D2? PvP was huge in D2.
They're all with me. No, they never played D2. They didn't have PCs back then.
I don't think PvP was that huge in D2, but it was, everyone knew about it, and everyone had a taste in some way. But I think there's very few people who actually really like played PvP.
But they at least like every now and then tried it out, like give it or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like you know, Dark Souls as well, where there's like the hardcore PvP crowd, and then there's people like who just like every now and then be like, let's invade someone, I'm bored today, just like see what happens. Oh, I got killed because he actually knows what he's doing. Well, I tried. That's kind of like a thing that does happen. I do that every now and then. I'm just like, let's invade someone. Or you get invaded and you just like have to fight, and there's or like run away or whatever. There's nothing you can do. So yeah, and PvP, like as in the set in chat right now, like PvP can give a game so much extra longevity. It's crazy.
Yes, exactly.
See Dark Souls 1. That's the best.
See, that's the kind of thing that I miss. That's why I'm not playing. I'm missing the things that give me longevity in terms of like where I can just brawl against other players, because I think that's super fun.
And that's, you know, that gives you something else to try for the gear. I think a good example is like Uberitz or something, when I ended up doing it on the Essence Drain character, but it was like there was no gear that could have dropped that was good for me, and if I got the gear, well, I've already accomplished the thing that the gear would have been for. Yeah. Whereas if you have PvP, it's like, oh, I do want a better thing, because you know, if I can already one-shot all the PvE mobs, who cares about my gear upgrade now? If I can get something else to help me in PvP, you know, they support each other back and forth quite well.
No, I think I think that's a good point. No, I think that's exactly how I feel.
We have probably like nobody in chat caring because we're talking about PvP for the last half hour.
Well, I think it's that's the problem why we're talking about it. It's like if everyone was like, "Yay, PvP," we wouldn't have this conversation right now. We would probably be playing PvP right now.
I think the point you just had right there about like what to do with your character after you beat a certain thing. I think one of the things that GG could do to kind of embrace both the 1 week races and the league itself, and they could merge them. You would do within the league on the last week, you would have Ragnarok basically. So that the character you had, now you had like Uber, whatever, everything that just like, right? And it's like you get an achievement for every single boss you've killed. So every single thing goes up to like a ridiculous level at the end. And now you just test your character, do whatever. It's like the last, like you won't get any like special loot. It's just about like, you can, and I think it's important that players will be able to say yes and no whether or not they want to join.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was actually just going to bring that up, because if you just did that, then now anyone who tries to start playing the game and has a level 1 character, just
no, you don't want to intrude of people's fun like that. Mm-hmm. But you want to make it so that you have this last week where everyone during the league starts to just, they accumulate gear and they accumulate all these pieces for all these builds to test out, because they don't know what's going to come. Right? Maybe everything is immune to poison. I don't know. Like, it's all in the hand. They can do whatever they want and just throw it at us, and they can rebalance it every single league.
I thought of something like that would be interesting, though. I thought a maybe slightly more refined approach to it would be essentially have a gauntlet of sorts that is not made to be completable. Like, it is not and then the measure is how far you can get in the gauntlet. Mm-hmm. It is not my build can complete the gauntlet. It's I can do 7 bosses or I can do 8 bosses. Mm-hmm. And so in hardcore, that's like, hey, I've completed everything. Let's see how far this character gets in the gauntlet. Character's dead. And even in softcore, you could adjust it so that to enter the gauntlet locks that character. Like, he's no longer in the league and he goes to the permanent league. Then it gives permanent league players something to do, because they can, you know, try to do something insane that legacy items will help and still fail at.
basically, like, the Shaper was when it first came out, a lot of people in Standard were like, oh, this sounds like we could try our characters at, and he is, like, definitely a step up from all the difficulty we had before, but it was only, like, a matter of days until the first Standard players, and then more and more players as the fight became more known killed it. I kind of, like, feel that Standard players, even though I'm not someone who plays Standard at all, would love to have something to actually test their absolutely ridiculous characters at. They're really like, I got like all these perfect legacy items, I got like all this mirror-worthy gear. Why can't there's no content to do with mirror-worthy gear, because if you have content that is actually like part of the main game, then that is challenging to a legacy character, then a permanent, temporarily character will never be able to complete it. And that way they could have something where the expectation is you will fail anyway and see how far they can get, maybe even get further than the devs expected them, because they have like so broken gear. That would be something I think that could really revitalize like Standard players to the point where they maybe even have to rethink their characters again and start optimizing them even more, and not just sit on their this level 100 and just like sit there and do that.
And it would also, give a little bit more indirect incentivization to get that extra little bit of stats from, 96 to 97 or 97 to 98, because you'd be like, hey, if I'm doing a tier 14 or a tier 16, that little bit doesn't help. If I'm doing this event, oh dear God, I need everything, because it's not, can I complete it? It's how far you get.
Yeah, exactly. But it has to be made very clear that this is something that you don't complete, because whenever something new is introduced in PoE, people like instantly feel entitled to beating it.
I think the only thing you should get would be like achievements.
Yeah.
That's what you get. And
one thing that portraits, I don't know why they are more liberal with portraits, because that's something that is the ultimate bragging right. It appears with you on the friends list. Like first level 100, they get a custom portrait from this league. First person to do this, another portrait, because I don't know why they don't do a little bit more of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because it's kind of like supporter title, like supporter pack only, basically. Portrait frames, right?
Is there any other way to get portrait frames? I think some of the times there's been like a competition reward.
Have there? I don't know.
I think there was like an art competition reward that had one at one.
Oh, okay, like that. Yeah, it could be.
Okay, I usually don't look at those, but I only look at the funny and cool pictures that people send in, but I never look at the rewards because I don't participate. I just like, oh, this is some cool fan art. Nice. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, someone was asking how would just like a portrait fix the game. It's indirect incentivization to encourage people to try. Because the problem often isn't that somebody would like something or somebody wouldn't like something. Let's look at it going back to PvP. Even if there are, let's say, 30 more people that would really enjoy PvP in Path of Exile, or even like 300 or 3,000 or whatever, if they don't have an excuse to essentially try at the same time and you can't build the foundation, you can like PvP and someone else can like PvP, but if they're not in the same spot at the same time, if you don't have that minimum saturation a game needs, it will fail in that category. It's the same thing with trade. Look how many people complain about trade later on in the league because of a lack of saturation of items. There is an amount of people you need to make something function. So encouraging that, can help, make sure that base is there.
Yeah, and you read that very often, that people are like, I kind of like this Sun Arena every now and then, but you have to queue up like 2 hours, and that's kind of like and the problem is like when nobody plays because it takes forever to queue up, then will forever be like this, because like, the vicious cycle is kind of like the problem like at that point is caused by itself.
Mm-hmm. And that's why when we talked about earlier the Stranglethorn style of a chest, because then there will be a whole bunch of people who try it out because of the loot, the incentivization, and then from there the people are like, hey, this is fun. They'll start doing it more and more, and then you'll start getting people outside that time frame, and that's all you need to do. And if then Sarn is saturated to a point where, hey, people are having fun, anybody trying PvP, because the worst thing you can have is such a small number that only the people participating are amazing. Yeah. In any type of PvP, you need scrubs. They are the foundation to everything. But a scrub needs to find another scrub, or he won't
that he can kill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you wanna go in just once and think, I finally, my build is really good now. I do really a lot of damage in this one skill. Let's see if I can just kill one guy, and then my day is complete. Yeah, I fucking got him, nailed him. That's all it takes. It's all it takes, and it's all the fun you need for any casual player.
Yeah.
I think so as well.
And we just don't really have a base. And then it's the same thing with racing. It's the exact same problems for slightly different reasons because we don't have the feedback. When I'm racing it, like, oh yay, I'm on a spreadsheet of this number that is on a website that I have to open up in fucking buttfuck nowhere, and I'm like, they can't even rank me by class. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Like your ranking should be easily accessible while you're racing. You need to get that, like the feedback loop of like, how am I doing right now? Am I improving?
Instant notification when you gained a rank and lost a rank, like instant notification. Oh, and that would be like, oh no, I lost a rank. Push yourself.
Yep. Or you're losing a rank. You're like, okay, I have to push harder, and then you're like almost dying. Okay, I can't push that hard, and it's more engaging that way because then it actually feels like what PT said earlier. It's not feels like you're trying to beat your own time, or you're just like basically doing this like shadow racing stuff you do in like racing games or whatever. But you're actually like competing to someone you maybe not see, but you see the number going up and down. You see like, okay, there is someone that's like really close to me in experience, and I'm just like going back and forth. Like every pack matters basically, which can be really cool. But yeah, we need third-party tools for that, and especially since TrackPeed now doesn't develop his stuff anymore, it's like even harder to find stuff. There's actually a ladder ranking tool that works still. That's not by TrackPeed. I can probably like link it for people later because I've been asked that a lot. Hey, because I don't know why I am the person to have that and nobody else does, but there's a working ladder overlay made by someone else.
Nice.
Because all the racers apparently don't have it, but I have it and I don't even race. But hey, that's pretty cool.
Hey, I've like ranked 200 solo self-found.
Yeah, I mean I'm like in the top 200 as well. It's like crazy. Like the competition in the temporary league is just not there anymore.
Well, the competition is like the top maybe 75, and then and even then it depends how much you're talking about competitive. You could make the argument that it's like the top 3.
Yeah, it's mostly like the people who don't stop playing, basically.
What do you guys think of the season rewards when they come up? Because that's when we talk about incentivization, that's the incentivization. There's obviously the alt art for the legacy or league players, permanent league, but how do you feel about the season rewards as of now?
I have never cared.
Same.
Literally.
Why then? So like, there is a reward, why is it not enough then? And because you're a person who likes to compete, and you're even saying you don't care.
And this is because it's awarding me stuff I don't care about, right? I like to compete, but why is the reward I get for competing some fluffy looking carcass check? Like when I put on gear, I will put on whatever item that makes my character stronger, regardless of how it makes me look. So in what world do I care that I get this exclusive item that looks like something, right? This is something a collector would get, not a racer. It's like it speaks to like two different like mindsets, and sometimes it will mesh, and it's a fit for some players, but for me, and I bet you there's plenty of other people, they would race regardless.
Yeah, I think currently the people who race don't like. I don't think the people who actually race, very few of them race for the rewards. I would just guess. I think very few people do. Most people just race because they like racing and competing, and that's it. And the reward for them matters very little. Like it's kind of nice. Like if you get a rare item like 1 month into the league, you can get like Victoria Security. I think Ziz is looking forward to that. It's one of his favorite items. As far as I know, and you can't usually get that very easily. It's kind of like nice, but that's not why you race. That's more like I did race, so I get this shiny thing. Yay, I guess. It's more like it's cool to have, but it's not. For me, it's like even.
Sorry.
For me, it's like even the other way around. I know I will not get many of the rewards, and the first tier rewards don't matter. I can just buy them for 5k or whatever, if they're like most of them, or I don't need or want them for any characters I'm planning to make. So that doesn't draw me in at all. Like, it just for me it's not something.
I actually am concerned with what you're bringing up at Joji when you talk about the power items. When they give something amazing, and it's usually like the 500 or the 1000 point. And unfortunately, someone who is not familiar with the racing system will be like, oh, I really want item X. Why do I want item X? Because, it's hard for me to get in the normal game. Now they immediately think that they will have an easier time getting 500 or 1,000 points than just farming the currency to get the thing.
Oh, no.
So you get a situation where someone will then hate the racing system because it wasted their time, and because you see that all the time, like, oh my god, look at the 1,000 points. Yeah, how many people are getting the 1,000 points? Because it is a bitch.
I don't want to be the person, like, if there's anyone out there who last league raced to get that Volt's Devotion, which was the 1,000 point, actually got it.
They nerfed it.
And went to see the patch notes, see that any trigger skill thingy is now nerfed to complete garbage, and then they look on PoE trade and see like Brittle Emperor cards go for 5 to 10 chaos in the first and second week. That guy basically probably just like uninstalled PoE, trashed his whole PC, and just like moved into the woods to never to be seen again. Like at that point, you're just like so done.
I didn't even think of that. I did not think of that.
Because a lot of people, when Volt's Devotion was there, a lot of people were like, oh yeah, that's like a reward that might be worth investing the time, because that thing is worth a lot, but not anymore.
I don't know why they don't do raffle systems. Like, the race seasons are perfect. If you participate, you're put at a raffle. If you get increased ranks, you get your name put in times multiple raffles. If you get certain season points, you then get a higher chance of or you can get the guaranteed item, but also do some raffles that don't have the alternate art.
Yeah, that would be nice. And also just give people
extra,
some bragging rights stuff, because that's usually what competitive people care about. Is more like, hey, look, I competed, I did like, well, I'm I don't know, second place last season, so I have a second place last season border, whatever, something. That's like what competitive people usually care more about than.
But we get the demis. I think the demis are pretty cool. So it's not like I don't care at all about some of the things you get, but I don't care about the demi for the demi itself, the fact I can wear. I care for the novelty of the item. Yeah, I care for my trophy. Right? I've never sold one ever. I've never sold anyone. I just have my entire stash right now. My hardcore stash is like, it's just what's those tabs called? The cannot be used tabs, right? The
remove only.
Yeah, the league tabs. I just have like a couple hundred of those, just going like on the length, and it's like I'm never gonna collect it. But I think it's cool that I have them, and I just look back and reminisce, and that's all I do with it. I never use it for anything.
I think that's what they're for. Also, what I found funny, by the way, when Ziz and also Rise, they were testing for the Shaper kill, they were testing in Standard, they paid all their Standard expenses with their demis from old races. They sold all their demis for Shaper sets and gear to try shit, which was like, so that's what they're for. I found that very interesting and very funny.
The other thing related to that was just, they don't have a permanent skin transfer. Why would I care about alternate, like, you give us an alternate art, awesome. I can use it once. Thanks. Please give us permanent.
I think they should do. I think they could do so much more about like getting like some of that better with the skin transfer.
Yeah, I think so as well.
I've heard a lot of people be really upset about that.
And I mean, in a lot of MMOs, that like the whole end game revolves around making your character look pretty, collecting like the transmogs and whatever. Like, I think WoW has a lot of like people who like collect transmogs and colors, which are really rare, and try to like look as awesome as possible. I know that Guild Wars 2, the main end game point is to look cool. That's like all there is, because the legendary weapons, all they do is have special animations. They don't even give you more stats than the other weapons. They just look fancy as fuck. So I think there's definitely a market.
I would be incentivized to kill Shaper if it gave my character a different cast animation. That would do it for me.
That sounds pretty good. Oh, we got an ambulance.
Number 1.
That's late.
But god damn it.
But it's a long one.
It's gonna fucking crash right into your house.
Yeah, not again. I had a fire on mouse yesterday. That's enough. I need like, please. We're done with this.
But no, there's a lack of incentivization, and then it's harder for players who like racing, because though I haven't played competitively in Path of Exile, I've done in other games, and Nugi confirm, when you have nobody that's equivalent to your tier that you're really pushing against, all the fun is lost.
Yeah, I was doing the solo self-found thing, and I was putting in a little bit less effort than I thought I could, and nobody was even close. After a certain point, I was like, why am I doing this again?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was literally my thought, and I'm just I'm just gonna do something else because I got bored.
I can imagine that's why Havoc is not racing this at this point.
Well,
I don't know. I think for the 100 race, there's been plenty of competition. Actually, I think there's been a good competition. Like there are a few people who really just give it their all. I think he's deservingly has won the majority of them because he just does it a little bit better than everyone else.
Yeah. But in the same time, that's a bit of a problem. Like, I don't know if I don't want to speak for Havoc. I don't know if he's been out of the race. Right. He is fantastic.
Yeah.
No one can compete on his tier.
I think
there's people that make him have to try harder.
Yeah,
but he's been consistent that when he goes all out, he does it.
Maybe if like Crane actually gave a shit for once, and not just like quits on day one of the league, we could have some competition.
Yeah,
I mean, Steel and his group, they were also pretty good.
Steel's fantastic.
He got the first one.
I think there's been like at certain times in PoE, there's always been like someone who's just stepped it up just an extra notch, right? And it's rare to have two of those. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a problem, and it's the same thing with competitive. Sure. Steel will make definitely Havoc try, and if Havoc slips up and dies, Steel can take that, and when
I think Steel could. I think Steel can do just as well.
Yeah. I don't.
Havoc is like
Steel at all. Steel is amazing.
Yeah, like the consistency, especially like this league where there was the extra XP nerf, and he still like pushed through. I think the 100 race was just overshadowed a bit by the Shaper kill race at some point.
Mm-hmm. Which definitely would have taken some people out who are more interested in getting like the first Shaper kill and thus killing their characters rather than going for the 100.
Yeah, also, like Shaper killing characters are not necessarily good leveling characters as well, right? Doesn't have to be.
Exactly.
But was Steel playing? Wasn't he playing like some super bullshit, like nobody has ever seen before?
Mine kinetic blast.
Yeah, like the fuck.
I haven't seen gameplay of it, but
Ah,
I've played that actually. That means it can't be a better build, right?
Well, if you just look at the mechanics he's using, it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's like
it is actually
the perfect combination of just multipliers.
Yeah, multipliers, doesn't worry about reflect, can do a whole bunch of map mods, so he doesn't have to roll as hard or can get maximum pack size possible. And honestly, I'm tired of the what's a meta, like make sure that your build can deal with reflect, no regen, weakness, vulnerability, the whole map rolling system. I'm like, please give us different requirements that we're building around, because it's the same thing for years.
That was kind of what I was actually hoping for this patch to be, because they overhauled the mapping system. I kind of was hoping for like this to include an overhaul of the rolling of maps and the map mods we can put. I'm not talking about Sextons, they don't count.
What do you mean? Sextons have changed everything.
Yeah, they have like changed 3 slots in my currency stash type. That's what they did. But yeah, I think I was kind of hoping for them to like switch it up a bit, because we've been rolling maps the same way for a few patches now, and I think it would be healthy for the game if they like just arbitrarily changed that for whatever reason every like 3-4 patches or whatever.
I think it's quite naive to think. Well, at least I had a lot of people asking me, is the Atlas gonna like change maps completely, right? It's like, are we gonna have like, okay, so we're not gonna chaos maps anymore? And like, no. I was quite sure that maps were gonna be like kind of an extension of our current system, because the game is set up as how you dump currency as well, and like the entire economy is built around maps as well. So you can't just overhaul that without also having to overhaul your economy and having to overhaul everything, like all crafting as well, in terms of like how many do we give, how much do we balance, because now you don't use alchemy orbs for that anymore, and it's just like how much more currency that starts flowing into gear, and so you have to rebalance that, so that everything is kind of like connected, so you can't it's a lot more to like, if you overhaul maps that way. I wish they would though, like I really wish they would, but I think it's there's a lot more to it. I think it's connected to a lot more things that you immediately would realize.
Well, so the currency sync of maps is what you're talking about, because you need that thing to deflate the economy, and that's ideally what maps is covering.
Yeah.
Is that a good design in the current state of Path of Exile, though? Should maps be that utility for the currency sync?
The thing is, I don't have an answer to what should be, like, what should it be if not that?
Fair enough. Well, like, I think that's when they said, change everything you know about Endgame. I was like, okay, maybe we're finally getting that, different thing than maps. We were finally getting something else, and they're like, nope, maps. And I'm like, damn it.
It's just like,
well, they've poured like currency, new types of currency over and over, like Vaal Orbs. Like now we have all these other
prophecy, silver coins.
So like if you now we don't use crafting systems anymore, but what are these things? It's just, then people are just gonna say, but it's the same thing, just repackaged, like just a new package, right? It's just a new skin for the same system.
Yeah, it's like
And so,
it's like
it's kinda
repackaged.
silly.
It's like repackaged and like just more content, basically. That's what we got. And like some of the repackaging I think works well. Like there is a sense of progression through the Atlas. Like you feel like you're progressing through the Atlas instead of. I love it as well. I think it's a great system, but it does not actually change how the mapping system is. It just changes how it feels. That's kind of what
I think the clarification that often people don't realize is it's not that what Atlas did was inherently poor. In fact, Atlas, there's some really neat things about it, but when you talk about what were the problems of the game and did Atlas address those problems, I would say no.
I'd say some of them. Like, for example, a very big complaint of players was always, and it's also a complaint of mine, that at some point, like in endgame, you'd always run the same tile sets and maps because there were too little mid-tier and high-tier maps. That's something that Atlas did address. We have a lot more maps in general, and we have a lot more yellow-tier maps where most people spend their time in. And we also have more high-tier maps, and the bosses are changing up as well. I love that the warbands map bosses that some of the higher-tier maps have, like tier 12, 13, and 15, I think we got.
Beacon.
Yeah, we got
Beacon. I've shaped so that I can farm Beacon all day, every day.
I finally got a shipyard so it can drop now. That's pretty good. And Overgrown Ruin has the Chaos Warbands as well, for example. And
watch out for the DD.
I had that yesterday. I was pretty close. Can't block that. I always forget about this when I'm playing a block character. But yeah, the Chaos Warbands as well, which I never faced before because they were so fucking rare in Warbands and in the flashback. I actually never seen a single Chaos Warbands. I didn't know what they would do, and it was an awesome fight. And they're actually like tanky enough to like be a fight and not just be like.
Wait, how did I get the warbands? Because I played a little bit and I got some of them. I don't actually know how I got them.
The warbands are now the baseline bosses. The Mute Wind warbands are the tier 13 Sulfur Wastes boss.
Oh, okay.
And they'll spawn randomly. The Brine Rots are the tier 12 on the Shipyard. The Red Blades are tier 13 Beacon. And the Chaos Warbands boss is the tier 15 Overgrown Rune or Overgrown Shrine. I can never remember that. Which means with the Atlas, you can controllably farm them now. And they wrote the boss randomly spawns between them.
Yeah, it's a random general every time. And it's and if you have double boss, it's twice the same general, so you don't get different ones, which I find a bit sad. Because I actually spend currency to try
two of the good ones. Like you can get two of the good ones as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can get two of the really sketchy ones.
You just double up on the thing when you finally get them.
Yeah, but we were saying it would have been more interesting to fight two of the warband leaders at a different mechanic. That would have been interesting rather than just doubling the same guy.
That is true.
I would love to have like a fight against the cold warband that Vaal Glacial hammers you, and the one that like chucks cluster traps at your face. In this, like you get trapped in the circle, the guy jumps at you, and then the other guy's like cluster traps all over this place. You're like, where do I go now? That would be
Someone give GGG like a unique design, make a map, and every single warband boss, tier 16 unique map, all of them,
All generals.
One fight.
One fight.
All the generals.
Especially
at
the
same
Vaal
time.
RF1.
You think Hall of the Grandmasters is bad? Wait for this fucker.
Yeah, and also like all the added like new warbands as well to support them as well. That would be cool. To get frost walled and stuff. That sounds cool. But yeah, I like that change a lot. Like this is a cool fight because you now have maps with changing bosses, which I think is cool. And warbands also have interesting. They actually have loot tables, so you can actually get the warband uniques, and you can try to search for the blue item helmets.
We have some like where you can do some deterministic farming, actual like more of that stuff where you can go, okay, I want to go here because I want to farm that thing. I want to go here because I want to farm that thing.
In a normal map, not like at series piece collecting crap.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
like normal mapping system. You find a normal map while mapping, and you'd be like, hey, I can run a beacon map, try to roll like, I don't know, some cool rarity or whatever on there, and try to find a warband's unique or I don't know, because the shield, for example, the red blade shield. Yeah, it's not great, but it's an awesome skin. For example, I love
actually
that.
That's true. Yeah.
One thing that I never had a confirmation of, and I should probably figure it out, is the red blades or any of the warbands drops. Can they be modified by rarity, and thus bumping up the blue item to a rare item decreases your odds of actually getting the warbands item? In which case you would want to run a high quantity, low rarity map, and even potentially use reduced rarity venters.
Oh.
But rarity also bumps up white items to blue items, so
yes,
it's
but
hard to
bosses
tell.
drop very, very little white items.
That's true.
Their
They
table
have,
is- So would
negative
that
rarity
be-
Ventus Gamble just went up in price? Question mark.
I would. That's the kind of thing I would hope that would exist. I hope that would be a thing in PoE. Because those are the kind of things.
You reward cleverness.
Yes.
But I have a feeling it's just it's like a map drop. It's just a chance, and it just gets tossed on the side. That would be my guess, but I should probably see if I could confirm that.
I would think as well that's just like has a chance to randomly drop one of the pre-crafted items, basically. But maybe it's just every blue item has a chance to roll. Then it would be different. That would be interesting to understand how the system works. No. But yeah, as I said, like to go back to like the whole Atlas thing, I think it addressed a lot of like underlying problems or like smaller problems, but like the big systematic change was not there. And Chris even said on the Line Eyes Watch podcast that basically they didn't have the balls to change the working system so much that it could scare away players. That's what, like rephrasing what he said. They didn't want to take the risk of changing a system that works for them so much that it might be like a lot of endgame players might be like, I like the mapping system, now it's so different. See ya. They didn't want that.
I think you want to make it I think you want to have I hope that they have a goal that they're working towards, and they're gonna do it like step by step. I feel like in the past they have this, I don't know, at least that's my perception of them, that they have this, either we go, it's like it can only be done all the way, and it has to be done all at once, or we can't do it at all. Because like, what about all this trading stuff, right? Like when is it coming? I'm sorry, but like they gave us a little bit, and there's gonna be more just soon, right? And I bet you it's because they want to have everything working at the same time before they give it to us. Because if it's not perfect, we won't give you anything. Mm-hmm. We won't make any mistakes with anything. And I think that's a mistake. Yeah. The same thing with PvP, right? We won't just gradually give you more tools to do PvP. No. Here you go. You get a full league with full reward sets, and it's perfect, and everyone's going to join in, and what?
I'm kind of confused by that too, that I can agree, they're pretty bad at taking small steps, and then sometimes when they take the hurdles, everyone is like, okay. No, I guess you can use like the example of Ascendancies, which was a huge change, and I did not like, because it wasn't flavor to the classes, it was straight power. The amount of power you get on your Ascendancies versus the amount that you have on the passive tree. Does that solve any of the problems with the passive trees? No. It's just like, oh, you want fucking all the energy shield in the universe? Play a trickster or a cultist. Oh, you block builds. Yeah, just Necro or Rumi's concoction still or champion. They've allowed these insane stat itemizations. And it's like, well, you didn't really, take some small steps into that one, did you? You just fucking went at her.
I think that was good though. I the whole Ascendancies thing, I think it was good. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh, we get too much power and so and so, but like honestly, how many people actually do the end game content anyways? Like how many people get to a point where they feel like, okay, I've beaten everything?
I would assume a very small amount.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so as well.
So
it's
there
very,
is
very
like all this talk about, oh, we have so much power now. Yeah, but how much have you actually done of the game? Honestly, like how many people have done what's he called, the big guy, like Ulretsiri and Shaber, and what's the last, Malachi? Right, Malachi was there when we got all the Ascendancies. How many actually went and killed him? The majority of players would still skip him.
I tried.
I think the only counter argument that I would make to that is, though there are some very, very powerful individual mobs, there's a difference between designing a build to do that mob and it being a reasonable boss encounter for just any build you've created. And so, like, Duresso and Kaum, still a very, very small amount of people complete these fights. Like, it's the amount of people who are actually doing tier 15s before and tier 16s is quite small percentage-wise. Yeah. Be curious to know how many. But, good luck because of the killing Shaper with the Glacial Hammer, as we made the joke before. Like, it's just not a skill that can do it, and so then you're forced, do you want to play the skill you want to play, or do you want to play the skill that is just better representation for doing these? Because you can have very, very strong builds that tear through maps and destroy everything, but Uber-Atziri's mechanics, you get shit on.
Sure. I think there is though, like, so there's a difference between Ascendancies and just general balance of the game.
Yes.
Because Ascendancies, I think, was much more about creating more of a connection between you and your character. Because how I feel it, like before, every single, like, if I was a witch, a shadow, or whatever, everything was the same. I felt like I never felt different. There wasn't any flavor to anything I picked. The only thing it would matter would be, in the end, on a lot of builds, would be something like 25 mana regen or 15% ES. Like at level 95, that would be the only difference between all these builds, because starting zones of every single spec is the strongest one. So you would go to 3 of them, pick everything in there, and you would have identical specs.
Yep.
Bearing like 1 or 2 skill, but you wouldn't have the 2 connector points outside. So you could pick the 2 starting points, and then you would branch out and then go to all the other ones. And that's super boring. So I think
you still do, but you have something on top now, right?
What I was going to say is
yes,
that still kind of exists. Isn't that the problem with the passive tree?
That's just the passive tree. But the Ascendancies is just like, that's just the extension where now it actually matters where you start. Because you can't like, if you start a shadow, you can't get what you get, like you can't get the things you get on, because they're just it just is different. It gives you a different style of play, and I think that's nice.
It definitely isn't now. It's like that's definitely a thing. Now it's like you have to choose your class and have to like mainly think about the ascendancy. Before it was like, okay, do I go duelist or marauder? And then you're like, okay, like I save like 1 point as a marauder, I go marauder or whatever. That's like the main decision before. There was very little merit except for like starting nodes really to choosing your class. And now you have to be like, do I go for a champion for permanent fortify, or do I go for a juggernaut for endurance charges and all that kind of stuff, or do I go for gladiator for block? And that's it's more of the class choice matters more now. And but I would argue it maybe almost matters a bit too much, because ascendancies are the main thing you plan your class or like your build around these days, because that's where most, if not all, of your power comes from class choice.
And I think I can agree with that comment, Itzoji. I don't have ascendancies are fine in theory to me, but when you're having skills where it's just like, well, this is just giving me so much more stats. And since the passive tree would be, as you were saying, Nugi, if you subtract the ascendancies, it's just like what starter points. Well, then now it's like what ascendancy gives me more stats to the build. And too often is one class just completely outshined. We could take examples. the Scion. We can take the examples of the Raider and a block. Yeah, and Pathfinder just being the all-star, the ones that have percent energy shield in them, the Trickster and the Occultist. Now, when you need those stats, it's just like, oh, well, this one just gives me an exorbitant amount of this stat, and none of the other Ascendancies compare. So you're not really, your choice is a bit artificial, which I guess you could say.
My counter argument is that it's always been like that.
Well, what if, like, for the sake of a very simple argument, what if the stats were more things like significant increases of endurance charge duration or power charge duration, so that it's easier to sustain between packs?
Okay, so more utility, but less actual, like...
Yeah, because utility is then flavor.
Power, yeah, okay.
And that's kind of where I hope. Like, there's nothing wrong with power being in there, especially when power offers utility. But too often is it just... Pathfinder, which is like, what? Yeah. Or like the Slayer's 20% cull, 30%, or like, I think they nerfed it. It's like still 30% area of effect. On top of the more melee, the Elementalist, the Inquisitor's removal of all pen. And then some people are like, oh yeah, but look, you're describing different things that are powerful in different regions. It's like, but when you look at a specific build, often it's like, this one's better. Do that one.
Also, in general, like I would love to see more unique mechanics and less raw stats. Like some of my least favorite Ascendancies, when it comes to like raw stats, are for example the Trickster. He's just shit tons of ES regen, like movement speed, attack speed, evasion, and ES. That's what the main part is. The cool mechanics on the Trickster are 3 movement skills. That's a pretty cool mechanic, I think. That's like one of the interesting ones.
Frenzy the mana charge one as well.
The mana one is kind of nice. The frenzy charge generation is nice, but the 2-pointer that everyone takes because who goes ES based is just boring as hell. It's just like here 3 ES, lower your gear.
I like the end one because it offers you a new playstyle for CI build, which is the evasion CI build.
Yeah, but did it need the flat evasion and flat energy shield? That's
sure. Like it. Oh, does it need that on top of that? Or...
Yeah, because it has that interesting balance of utility and what it gives you when you're invading or when you're at full energy shield or when you're recharging. And that's interesting. And I fully agree. But then the amount of flat energy shield on the node is like, what?
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit too strong. It's definitely very, very strong for sure.
Put another shield on, because fuck it.
Yeah, that's kind of like.
But these are like more of a all these things are like there's always going to be balance issues. At any point in time in the game, this has been like this, right? We had the shock meta, we had the freeze meta, we had the ignite meta, we had the melee meta. We had like it's there's always something people gravitate towards, whether it be Ascendancies, whether it be whatever it is. And it's just up to them to like keep that in check and kind of like shift it around every once in a while. People hate it when it's like, oh, they're just making this new, like they're just like trying to make new flavor of the month. Yes, that's you have to do that to create new experiences within the game, because you can't always reinvent the fucking wheel. Sometimes you just have to twist it a little bit to reveal something else to the community. So now you can try this, right? So.
I think that doesn't contradict, though, like making the Ascendancy classes more interesting. I'm okay with balance often being like just meta shifts. I'm totally cool with that. I'm just saying that maybe like the flat stat Ascendancies should kind of like be reworked into actual unique mechanic Ascendancies. Like the ones that just give you flat stats, just give me something I can't get anywhere else. I would love every Ascendancy to have like at least like 2 things that I can't get anywhere else, and not just I cannot get that much ES anywhere else. I cannot get this mechanic that I can build around anywhere else. Yes, that needs a lot of creativity, but please, game design people, do something.
The Guardian actually has some, other than the broken stuff it does, it has some very, very interesting stats and how they work. Like 50% block, but only for 2 seconds. Well, that's not reliable, and that then makes it interesting. It's like, well, that's a ton of defense over a period of time, but completely unreliable. And it also makes it that if you invest into block, well, then you're penalized, because that then 50% block just over block caps yourself. So it ends up being a block benefit to non-block builds that's not reliable, but interesting.
Yeah, okay, yeah, more of those things. For those to feel interesting and relevant, you have to get rid of all the other consistent things.
Yes.
You can't because they will never you can never have in PoE. You can never have an inconsistent thing will never beat something that's consistent.
Yep, definitely not. Especially in hardcore,
unless it's like for damage. But then again, it's like inconsistent. But then it's still like look at the what's it called, the elementals, right? That kind of like rotates, but that's still consistent.
Yes, it is, and it allows you can set up and shock on the bosses.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, would Pathfinder be as strong if you couldn't have 100% uptime on your flasks, essentially? No, it would not be, because inconsistency is then multiplied by player error and player competence, and then, that's all it needs. But then, that's the thing, maybe the Ascendancies should have been more inconsistent, so it's like, oh, this happened, exciting, rather than just being like, yep, I have these stats now, it's just borderline.
Yeah,
I think it would be like for Pathfinder, for instance. I think okay. One of the things, just because I just thought about it. One of the things I think GG has done the very worst lately is like trade-offs.
Yes, the Pathfinder could use a lot of trade-offs.
Yes. Let's say, okay, you get if you spec into Pathfinder, where now you get surgeons and everything. So now you have all the flasks in the world. Okay, but now they're only half efficient, right? You literally just cut flask effectiveness or something like that by half.
And that actually, if we want to talk about pure stats, and let's say maybe people just don't like the quality of life, if all Ascendancies came with a benefit and a downside, that's when you can give power for the sake of power.
Yeah.
It's when you also help a weakness. Like, what if a Pathfinder takes extra reflect damage for like whatever you want? You could do whatever.
Some of my favorite things about Flask, for example, is the Flask mod that you can roll that is reduced duration, increased effect. That's like really cool because it makes it so that you have to actually Flask at the right time and not just like randomly have it up during the fight. And maybe like what you just said, like maybe make Pathfinder like a 2-branch thing where you can either have like Flask effect and really little uptime, but like insane Flask effectiveness, but like only for a few seconds and they don't refill fast, and the other branch being reduced Flask effectiveness but more uptime. Or you can like both sides and balance it out a little bit like as you like.
But guys, Vinctors shocks you. Downsides.
Oh no, yeah, okay, yeah, that's a problem. I mean, downsides in general, like they've been very tame on some of the downsides, while other random items have a downside of like 5 minus max res on this shitty belt. I'm like, that makes me not use it. Why isn't such a substantial downside on an item with substantial upsides? They could do so much better with the whole upside downside thing.
Or I think it's also when an item had a downside that becomes more and more irrelevant as the meta progresses. Abyssus, I think, is a really good example. Abyssus used to be like the lol, you're using Abyssus, nice build, of course you have damage, and now it's like, yeah, it's a hardcore item, nobody really argues it. Like, you have to build around it, which is fine, but the downside is just a bit of itemization.
I would still say Abyssus is probably one of the better balanced downsides, because you want to make sure in hardcore especially to get that min roll on the increased damage taken of Abyssus. You don't want you're not maxing the crit multiplier, you're min maxing the damage taken stat. Definitely, it's definitely I think it's definitely one of the better balanced items.
It's like Abyssus offers you all the damage you're lacking, or all the things you can't get in a certain area, but in an area where you can get all the other things to account for that. And so now we can like make that, and that's really great.
Yep. I think so.
And Abyssus is, and it doesn't have life, it doesn't have resist, and even if it's downside, it was a well-designed unique that I think is aging a bit too powerful. But they're, I guess, too worried of producing an item that just then doesn't get used.
I don't know, man. Like, you can't. Like, I was like, the thing in the past I've been really happy about. Like, the thing I really just where I thought GG was just doing so many good things is that they just revamped. Like they just took a different approach to all these things, and they're not afraid to do it. Introduced all these like cool items and cool ways of like building.
Orbs.
Yeah.
I was excited, like Vaal Orbs. Yeah, they could brick the shit out of your items. That's awesome.
And they're still great.
Yeah, Vaal Orbs.
They're a great orb.
But at the same point in time, I think there's an issue that the cost of Vaal orbs in comparison, like enchants with the labyrinth. So now that we have the boots enchants, the glove enchants, and the helm enchants, what are you not valing? Boots, gloves, helms, because the Vaal implicits need to be more rewarding, so that they're like, so people are like, oh
okay.
yeah, I'm gonna Vaal things because
They could
they'll
do some
brick.
balance changes for that. Yeah.
You know what? You're also not valing steel rings. Like the new implicit, implicit items that they introduce. Like whenever they introduce implicit items with new strong implicits, basically the Vaal becomes less attractive on that slot.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't really like it. I think Vaal are like inherently balanced because they can always brick your items. It's really hard to make them overpowered, even if they have really powerful rewards. Because, like, yes, you maybe you have a really high chance to get an absurdly strong effect on your 6-link shafts, or maybe it's just gone. So that's always an investment you have to make.
It's kind of silly that you can have implicits that are better than Vaal implicits, like that, and a Vaal implicit can't like improve on it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they should just add the whole lab enchantment stats, like all of them, also to the Vaal, just like +1. Like you have a chance of getting all the Uberlab enchants on a helmet if you Vaal them, but just like even with higher stats. Like plus 5% or whatever to something. Just like so so you think you got your perfect helmet already, huh? But you could Vaal it for like 5% more AoE.
I'm thinking of like a Valed Heretic's Veil with like 50% curse effectiveness.
Oh, not uniques though. Oh, maybe you could do that. Yeah, you could Vaal 10 chains effectiveness on your Heretic's Veil. Or maybe you break your Heretic's Veil and there goes like 15x.
But yeah, like Vaal Orbs is such a beautifully elegant design of risk, reward, excitement, fun. It can give you something so rare. You don't have to play the game for, years to get potentially the rarest thing because of how Vaal Orbs work. Mm-hmm. Vaal Orbs are just so well designed, and in their kind of creep of stats, Vaal Orbs become less and less appealing. Now, like, because essence crafting is so cheap, do you really want to give up your ability to re-roll these new properties because you Vaaled it, then linking it and coloring it, then needing to spend more Vaal Orbs for the relinking and coloring? How many people are gonna, do the Vaal 6-link, the Vaal Orb 6-link outside of a permanent league?
Yeah, it's rarely something that people do. It's something you could do. It's something you can aspire to. I don't think that you necessarily need to have like everything. I do think that we should have more like Vaal orbing. I would like it to be a little bit more. That would be a more common to use a Vaal orb. Though I don't think that we necessarily need to have everything be that you're ever going to use it.
No, it's
like,
just...
I like having the thing that you hope that you're going to use it at some point, that you aspire to use it.
No.
That it's not necessarily that you're going to do it, but at least that you're thinking about it is a good thing for the game.
I can agree with that. I was just more trying to say that because of all these costs associated with Vaal Orbs and how strong everything else has become.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree on that.
There's not the reward. Like, there are some amazing things you can do with Vaal Orbs, and they're very, very specific, unfortunately. They need to be more broadly accessible. No, what I think would be like an interesting, like, okay, the worst thing about Vaal Orbs, I don't know if you guys do it, when a Vaal Orb corrupts and does nothing.
Yeah, I hate that.
I would rather it brick. I would
I hate when it does nothing because it's just like because when you Vaal an item, you're ready to lose it. Basically, you have taken into account this might be gone. You have a plan. What happens if this breaks? And then you're like, so I'm stuck with this item. Nothing exciting happened. It's not like I have to replace it, which is also exciting. Having to replace gear is something you have to think about. You have like replace gear. It's something interesting. And you just sit there just like, guess I just did nothing at all. -1 Vaal Orb. Woo. I would rather have it always do something. Like always either brick or implicit or whatever.
Even if it's stupid, like 2% light radius.
3 quality, yes. 23 quality item.
Imagine you could Vaal a 23 quality item.
That would be so cool. You can do that with gems. Why not with chess pieces? I want that. That would be nice. That's extra, yes. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like, even if it's small, just do something.
Or I could take away quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
At
mean,
the same time.
Yeah, it becomes like imperfect. Also, why can't can you have like two effects happen at once? Why isn't that a thing? That would be interesting. Like get an implicit, but like also make it rare, for example.
Oh, so all the events that can happen have a chance to overlaps.
Yeah,
Is what you're saying.
yeah.
So you
I
could,
can get like two white sockets and an implicit or something like this.
I think what they need to do is just put Vaal Orbs on crack so that they can justify the downside.
Yeah.
You know, even in the spirit of essence, if they want to update it, what if you want to do something really exciting? There's a chance of a Vaal essence, like the corrupted essence, and there is a tier of rare mods that can only appear from an item that was Valved, so a bricked item could turn into this, and then they could never be crafted because it's corrupted.
Yeah,
And so you could do some really powerful prefixes and suffixes that could only ever appear on a bricked item.
Yeah, you can make like so much stuff. And I mean, they could probably like hire a random, I don't know, intern person and just like let them make a random bullshit list of stuff to happen with items. Someone who played PoE, just like give them $100 and like let them make them a list of like random shit that can happen with items. Put them all into Vaal Orbs. Like maybe have a rough look over it if it's like not completely just OP stuff, but also like some bad effects. And then yeah, that's basically it. I don't know, maybe make items change bases, whatever. Like suddenly your lightning call changes base to, I don't know, another base, but it stays unique, so it just becomes a unique of another base. So you value your 6-link lightning call, suddenly it's the corrupted shafts. You're like, what the fuck? What do I do now? I have a lightning call character, but now I have this item. So maybe make a new character with it. That's cool. Or like make it turns into a Lionite or a Victorious chest or something, but just like keeps all other properties, or maybe not. There's so much they could do with Vaal Orbs. It's actually limitless possibility with very little risk, because the resulting item will always be uncraftable, and it's always a huge risk. So they could do so much with this and make it awesome, and they just went very tame with it overall.
Well, I wouldn't have said Vaal Orbs were that tame when they originally came out, but even the terrible implicit stats, when you compared to what we had, they were still a little bit exciting.
Yeah, that's true.
But as gear has also become so much more powerful and lasts so much longer, the longer gear lasts on your character, and if you can do everything, it's like, well, my build can do everything. Why Vaal for that extra little bit when there's no reason to? Like it is just destroying an item for the sake of destroying an item. What if I change my mind and want to recolor my shit later? Well, like why? Like what am I gaining? And then it unfortunately puts it at the situation where really the only time you should be valuing things is if you have like the perfect shavs and you're looking for now the +1 perfect shavs. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's definitely like a luxury upgrade that you very rarely will ever need to have a character. Like you will not like, I need that +1 23 quality shafts to do Shaper. No, that's not how it works. If that's like this, then nobody will probably ever do the content in a temporary league, right?
You see, this is the kind of thing where you want to prepare for some, like for the Ragnarok event, right? Where it's like, this is where I need to take that character just a little bit further, and I can do Tumultuarch, where I have like it's a long-term project that will eventually be used for something. It's not going to be it's not like, I get this extra buff. There has to be a point of doing it.
Yeah,
I agree fully, because then you are incentivized to really push your upgrades. And I think the biggest risk you could be in kind of a gear grinding ARPG that we have is getting to a point where the gear upgrades are meaningless. That there are upgrades, but they're meaningless.
Yeah.
That's true. It's kind of like, if there's no content to measure the power of your character against, then the power is meaningless.
Yes.
And there are a couple bosses. There is the Shaper fight, and there is Ubertsuri, and there is you can roll some pretty rippy tier 15s and tier 16s now, especially with those warbands.
Yeah.
But it then is like, well, it's a little bit bullshit difficulty at the same point in time.
Oh yeah, I mean, something I really like about also it's again like going back to the Vaal Orbs and bullshit difficulty. What I like about the Atlas is that red maps you have to corrupt them to unlock the bonus, and that has actually led to me running some pretty rippy maps recently. or at least like try them. Some of them I haven't even completed because I was like fighting so hard to get a freaking residence, and even when I bought them, they're always either like +1 upgraded, so you can't like so suddenly the residence is not a residence anymore, so you get wrecked, or they would like roll into something like so dumb and rippy. And I was like, okay. And at some point, I actually tried to run one. I was like, okay, crit multi, extra damages, fire and lightning, 4 projectiles, and it's dominus as a boss. That's not good. Like sped up monsters, vulnerability, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm just gonna give it a try and see how it happens. And one of those like Hellfire Dog dudes, like a white one, walks up to me, hits me for 6k. And I'm like, but I didn't give up yet. So I was like playing like a pussy, put out my decoy totems, flame blasted from like really far range, like didn't walk into any rooms, just like super careful. I actually made it to the boss. And then like Dominus like teleported into me, touch of God at me like super fast. I was like flame dash just away, and then he shot like these GMP lightning dudes over me, and one clipped me for like 6k. I was like, insta logout. No, I'm done. But I tried it, and it was super awesome. And that this system led me to even like try it is awesome. I love that.
I had fun with 2, but it's very annoying when it +1s the map. You're like, okay, I'm gonna do this to unlock it. Val +1. Oh my fucking God.
It's also usually you used to be like +1 winning. Now it's like +1. If you already have the +1, it's annoying.
The shipyard, which was the brine rot boss, I ended up doing 4 projectiles minus max
chain. I saw
chain like vulnerability. It was disgusting.
And you were
the
totems.
boss was like 2-shotting me, and I'm like ah.
And you were totems, I remember that. And I remember also, like, me and Carf were both in chat, and we were spamming you to, like, only place 1 totem, because with Chain you were actually, like, trying to kill yourself by placing 2 totems all the time. We were like, dude, just 1 totem!
But I couldn't place 1 totem because he was killing 1 totem way too quickly, so it couldn't attack. So that's why I was playing 2 and trying to run out of line of sight.
Yeah, but Chain made it, like, so dangerous for you with 2 totems.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome.
But then in Beacon, I did an unidentified beacon, which is the red blades. And I'm like, okay, you know, whatever, unidentified yellow beacon. My build can do pretty much everything. Should be fine. Go in. No regen. Minus max. Fizz reflect. Ellie reflect. Friendly charge. And maybe one more thing. And I'm like, son of a fucking bitch. So I like go to town. I get 5 life flasks. So that I can like, no utility flask. I'm like, this is going to take a while. We got it done. We full cleared it, but it was just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and I really like that. Like, Varling maps is something I've not done enough in the past, I feel. Now I have an incentive to do so. And
Yeah.
it's really cool, because it leads you to go out of your comfort zone, not only roll the mods you can run.
At the same point in time, you're not really incentivized that because you could have just saved all your time, bought another map for lower the cost of the time, and just ran a better map.
I think the downside of that thing is that, well, this is like the downside of the current mapping system. Like you mentioned, like no regen, and you mentioned minus max. The amount of builds that completely gets negated by those kind of mods on maps right now is ridiculous. Like there's so many builds you can't run because there's a certain level of like there is a certain thing you need to be able to do. So like. Who in their right mind wants to run what's it called, Righteous Fire on anything right now? Yes. One of the coolest looking skills, but it's like, okay, I'm just gonna kill my character on like 80% of the maps I'm gonna do
with an awesome
level.
MTX too. Like
yeah,
Righteous Fire MTXs.
Yeah,
can we just say, fuck pack size being role specific, in general, because that's what causes it. Whatever they put pack size on, you need to efficiently roll the pack size mods. And why is Righteous Fire terrible? Well, because minus max, vulnerability, partial regen, all pack size, all not really a problem for most other builds.
Mm-hmm. I think so as well.
Also one of the reasons why Pathfinder is so strong is because it is the best way of dealing with minus max.
Yeah, Flask.
Flask are the best way of dealing with minus max because it's you have permanent of that, like, and then purities obviously. So Aurabots plus a Pathfinder. And this is the best way because there is, they've done a good job at like counteracting this, so it's not as powerful as before with like lowering the max resist on flasks. A lot of people think that Bink charge and stuff is OP right now, but I don't think people realized how stupidly OP flasks were in the past with auras, with reaching 100% resist.
Yeah, you could.
What do you mean?
100%.
100% resist is perfectly reasonable.
Right?
Just
Like
face tank
permanent
over it, sir.
immunity. Yeah. It's people think the flasks are OP now. Just you should like it's not that too far like ago that we have something that was like arguably more OP because you could literally immune all damage in the game.
Yeah, that was Mjolnir. That was
Yes.
its power. Full on Mjolnir, 100% immunity, Fizz, Elemental. Cool. Just watch out for the Chaos hit and you're fantastic.
Yep.
And then you could potentially make it CI if you were really, really, really budget.
There's still the gluttony of elements thing.
There is.
But it's temporary, which I think I wouldn't say it makes it okay to be there, but it's not as abusable as like flasks who can have permanent uptime, basically. Even back then, because the builds would clear fast enough to at least have the immunity up during normal map clearing.
Well, the increased speed of builds, though, does increase the essentially flask uptime as a percentage of your map clear, and that's one of the hard things. Is like there are a lot of very interesting on-kill buffs or like 4 seconds or 5 second buffs that were given to Ascendancies, and if the game was a lot slower, they wouldn't be what they are. But it's the speed that you can accomplish that makes these supposedly temporary buffs into map-wide buffs, and then it's really hard to balance around those.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like, Leech becomes a problem if damage skyrockets. Who would have thought that would be a thing? You can actually leech through the Shaper Beam because we have ridiculous amounts of damage in Leech and Vaal Pact. And I actually think that Vaal Pact might be a bit outdated. Because instant Leech seems to be a problem, like a core root problem for a lot of things. I know that a lot of people like the Vaal Pacts and don't want it nerfed, but I think instant Leech is just like a lot of the Leech through everything mechanics are only possible because of Vaal Pact and absolutely
instant
nothing
Leech
else.
should have a what's it called? It should have a penalty to your total health pool.
Actually, yeah, that
would be good, yeah.
Because now you can leech a lot more, right? You get a lot of because what's it called? What instant leech does, it gives you a lot more like mitigation, literally, like basically, because like you can constantly like just mitigate damage you take by just leeching it and constantly just having. It's like having like 7 times the regen you could have on any other character. If you go with the overtime leech, then that matches up with now you need more health, and so you get more health, so that benefits you that way, and so you can invest into that. So there's like these two ways of like approaching leech. Either we get a huge amount with with less health, and we can get it up immediately, or we have a higher pool, but it takes longer to reach the cap.
I think
stuff like that you could do.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And the argument brought up in chat is that Reflect then becomes a huge issue and we might go back into the Chaos meta. I mean, yeah, then do something about Reflect. Of course, Reflect cannot stay the same. If now our main way to fix Reflect is Vaal Pact, and a lot of, like, basically almost all builds, especially Inquisitor, maybe find a better way to deal with, like, that.
There's a very easy way, and it pisses me off so much that they didn't do it. They put it in Essence, which was the wrong way to do it, and they put it in 2 of the Ascendancies. Reflect reduction should be a stat and prefix or suffix. Why? Because then if Reflect is a problem, you have to spend higher itemization and a more specific build to make sure you can handle Reflect. And if your Reflect is not a problem for your build, that gives you more itemization to work on other things. But no, they put it in an Elementalist in fucking Slayer because fuck it, why not?
I actually think that's pretty genius because then you are always thinking, okay, I can afford like a next upgrade. Do I buy a damage upgrade or would I have to buy a Reflect upgrade first or like invest into or craft a Reflect upgrade first? So basically like, okay, if I get a new weapon now, would Reflect be an issue? So I should kind of like upgrade my gloves maybe because they don't have 20% Reflect reduction or 10% or whatever, which they could have. That could be like an interesting way to deal with it.
And then it punishes you for being greedy.
I don't think we need more ways of dealing with Reflect.
Elaborate.
Why do we need to have a way of dealing with everything? If you make Vaal Pact less powerful, right? So that kind of like it lowers the power of everything, because now like if that is the highest tier, you bring that down online with normal Leech, Now you have an even playing field.
I think the problem comes down to more so that people don't enjoy reflect as a mechanic,
But
and
it has
because
to be
of
there.
that, well, I agree. It serves a purpose, but does reflect have to be that thing? Because you need something to
Okay.
be a wall for speed, right? That
Okay,
people have
then
to
that's
care
health
about.
on monsters. You can decide. Do you want more health on monsters and less damage, or do you want reflect? Make a choice, because that's the other way.
That's a difficult
I
choice,
don't.
though. I don't think it's like that obvious. Like,
No, like, I know. I don't think it's obvious as well. But it's like if you take reflect out of the question, then you have to what's gonna replace it.
Well, the thing is, I would actually already say that reflect is kind of already taken out of the question. Yes, you might have to re-roll a reflect map, but there's very few mobs that actually have enough health that reflect the damage that you're concerned about, unless you're in like a full 6-man party. People have not been too concerned about reflect, and we still also have like the chaos meta that exists. Like it builds like Essence Drain are insanely powerful. You have totems,
Sure.
you have mines, you have the kinetic blast. So I would even say people have circumvented reflect quite consistently since 2.0 or 2.1 and earlier, which is a problem. The speed that's allowed is only allowed because we've been able to circumvent reflect so easily, and reflect is not what it used to be. Because before the funniest thing was like, wow, cast on crit discharge is amazing. Have fun with reflect, bud. Instant death. I remember your tropical island with Mjolnir when you were so
Oh.
excited to start mapping.
insta self.
That was probably the low point of any build I've ever had. I think right there was the low point. All the builds ever. That was really sad.
But there's a purpose of that mechanic, and that is to punish blind DPS. We don't have that, and reflect isn't doing that currently. Are you telling me that reflect is stopping blind DPS currently? Fuck no.
Well, it's stopping a certain archetype, I would think. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Because there are builds that will literally one-shot themselves. You can make builds that will one-shot themselves easily at this point to reflect.
Yeah, there's no problem at all. Like people do
So those
that.
builds they don't really exist in like as a in the normal meta, because they are pointless. Because like just look at Crypt coming back with his discharge, like one-shot discharge build. Right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna die here. Yep, you died. One-shot yourself to reflect. Good stuff. And it's the kind of, it prevents that like where you just immediately one-shot reset.
Yep.
Someone bring back Bloodlines reflect back.
Was that like the worst thing ever? That was the second worst thing ever. The worst thing ever was actually the shrine, the reflect domination shrine, which is like, oh, a shrine, oh, I'm dead. That was actually the worst instance of reflect.
I don't know. Phylactery Link was a special snowflake.
Oh, I was just talking about instances of reflect.
Okay.
Racecourse map. I don't know if Nugi, if you actually experienced the racecourse map.
The race course? No, I haven't seen that yet. I heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, it's a triple boss, and one of the bosses has like an animation. He just starts charging up, and then has like a yellowish glow under him, and enables like an obscene alley and fist reflect. And so many people have died to that.
Yeah. All the Blade Vortex guys, they're like clueless to what the fuck's going on, and
It's like,
they just fall over when it pops.
Yeah, they just like run in and die, or like Mather as well. He just like was shooting away with his bow character, just like suddenly poof, dead. What?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Paz managed to get eaten by that one alive too.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's actually like after we know what it does, it's actually pretty cool because you have to play around it. But when you don't know what it is, it was just hilarious.
But you need a mechanic. You need a mechanic that doesn't allow a player to just blindly go through and literally close their eyes, which. Not necessarily all the time, though. And this is, you could increase the mob health pool, as Nugi said, so that, actually fights take impact. You can have...
Yeah.
GGG's gone with the on-death mechanics. I don't think Reflect is a problem. They've gone with the volatiles and the bearers. Which, honestly, can fuck off. I find it's the exact same annoying thing.
Porcupines! Fucking porcupines!
And... if the only threatening things are on death mechanics, what's that actually saying about your mobs? And we're not talking about bosses, we're talking about the general map clear. If the only thing that's threatening me is the process of them dying, well, fuck it. Where's the mobs anyways?
And then when you find a way to immune the process of them dying, now you don't care anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of did a like I wouldn't say
Immortal
good job, but they made
okay.
Yeah, but they kind of like made sure that bearers can't be blocked. They're not a spell, and you can't. There's basically no way to survive standing in 10 bearers. You just die unless you have Vaal Immortal Call, I guess.
Yeah. Reflect, I don't find is the solution, and it's not the solution anymore. There's too many easy ways and efficient ways out of it, and a lot of the builds that could go around it were just not that great, and now they're
so in reflected in its current state, what is the issue with it then? If it's not really an issue,
it was more of like on death things, kind of doing the same thing. I actually kind of forgot what brought it up.
I think the issue with Reflect is that
it punishes builds. Maybe it forces the meta a little bit too much, because there are, as you said, builds that kind of you're doing a full elemental melee. Good luck.
Yeah, it's basically that. Like you always have to make sure, like if you're playing an elemental build, it better has some way to mitigate reflect damage, and that like shoehorns you into like certain aspects, and other things can like become like a pain in the ass to play as soon as.
I think we need more items like Rise of the Phoenix then.
Yeah.
Yep. Or
because
if you can itemize out of it,
you itemize for very specific builds like that way. Because that was why we could actually have fire builds. Why didn't we have lightning builds? Because there wasn't Rise of the Thunder God.
What do you mean? Stormcall I've never seen a Stormcall build die to reflect ever.
Because nobody plays it. But yeah, that's I would say think that as well. Like Flame Blast can survive. I mean, now it's just like you get forced, pressured into playing Elementalist. The main reason I'm not playing many Inquisitors is because it's just annoying to like play around Reflect as an Inquisitor. You have to path all the way either to Valpack, which kind of is okay, I guess. But even then, they just do so much damage with the ignoring resistances that it's kind of like getting sketchy.
Yeah, if you don't have the CI life pool to absorb some of those reflect hits, it's like, have fun.
I really need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back in like 2 minutes.
All right. We'll do things. So
we just talk about Nugi behind his back. That's pretty awesome.
Exactly, fucking Nugi.
Yeah, man. He doesn't even play PoE. Why is he on here again?
Yeah, fucking World of War. All right, so it's the OG, World of Warcraft.
Yes.
You played it for a short period of time.
Yeah, like a weekend or so. I made a paladin, I think.
Why did you stop?
It costs money per month and wasn't that good. Didn't bring any. It was like. I mean, I was at school at the time, and like 10, 15, 12 euros a month was a lot for me at the time, because I was actually working for my money when I was in school as well. So I was like, and it didn't really intrigue me enough to be interesting. I'm actually quite sad. I would have loved to like have experienced like the whole community and things of the old World of Warcraft, like the beginning times, because like so many awesome stories originate from that time. But yeah, like looking back to it, and if I was part of it and be like could reminisce about the good old WoW times, that would be pretty cool, I think, and it would be a lot of awesome.
Yeah, you didn't jump on the bandwagon, so now you get to be a shut-in. Yeah. Congratulations, Itochi.
I'm actually not sad that I missed Diablo 2 though. I think the game was super awesome at the time, and I don't really mind it, but at the time I wasn't into the type of like grinding games. My taste in games changed a lot back then. I was a lot into story-based games, and D2 at the time wouldn't have like interest at all.
No, it's not really held up too much on its story. Some people say that D2 has a fantastic story, and I think they're retarded.
There's good atmosphere, I would say.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people confuse for great story. For example, I would argue anytime that Dark Souls doesn't have a fantastic story, and it just has a really cool way to tell it and great atmosphere. The story is good, but it's not super fantastic. Mainly because we don't even know half of it.
Yeah,
maybe it's good, but we just don't know it. But
it's definitely more about the presentation and the ambiguity of it.
Yep.
What are we talking about?
Storytelling in video games.
We just completely went to something else. I just mentioned that we just mentioned that D2's story wasn't as great, although people like to say it. But this was more about the presentation and the atmosphere and everything like fitting pretty well together.
You don't think D2's story was great?
No, I think it was a bucket of shit.
Really?
The atmosphere was fantastic. It's
why wasn't
fun
the
with
story great? Tell me why.
Because it was evil dude, corrupt the world. Fucking,
Yes?
it's generic fantasy, whatever, but that's fine. That doesn't make it
story
good.
with having a hell like always, and then the us being corrupted and all that. It's the tried and true. What's so wrong about that?
That means it's not good. I don't read you Yertle the Turtle and you're like, oh, but it's classic. That doesn't make Yertle the Turtle good.
No, it doesn't make it bad either.
I didn't say it was bad. Well, I did.
You did actually say
that.
I just said it.
You actually said it was.
Yeah.
It's just it's a cliche.
To quote a bucket of shit.
I corrected myself mid-sentence, but no, it's just not anything other than a video game story, which is a bucket of shit.
Yeah, it's. I would say it's not a great story, as I said. Like it's an alright story. It's the tried and true, as you said. It's just it's what works. It's what we've seen a bunch of times, and people can't put it up, alleviate it to something that it just isn't.
I think it was a good continuation of Diablo, the original theme from Diablo, right? Mm-hmm. He gets into the Soul Stone. The Soul Stone, right? He now Diablo is trapped. He keeps corrupting the hero. The hero goes out and then they manipulate this one guy to do their bidding, right? You have Marius getting manipulated through the entire thing, and how they're conspiring to get Diablo back, and eventually there's all this and then there's also the backstory. If you looked into some of that, all the mini terrors and stuff. I think there's it's I don't know, you might not like the whole heaven versus hell thing, but I don't think it's I don't think it's a bad story just because you like.
Well, I think it designed a good world, and that's what we were talking about. It had a good atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah, right? Sure.
But having a good setting is not a good story, and I think that's commonly confused when people are just like, "Oh, it's a good story." I'm like, fantastic atmosphere. The background, the stuff, the environment that they did, but the story.
It also had some interesting characters, but a good example of good characters in a bad story would be Suicide Squad. I don't know if any one of you watched that, but it had a lot of cool characters in a generic as fuck story, and that's what video games a lot of times do. They get pretty interesting characters and just tell the big evil destroys the world, save it, okay, it worked, thank you, story, which is not very new and cool. So I think generic is, in general, just not very good.
I really think they embraced, in Diablo 1 and 2, I really think they embraced the entire theme and just really pushed the corruption and the evil of this Diablo, the Lord of Terror. And I think they pushed that very well through the entire thing. So I really like Diablo storyline, the whole arc of that. I thought that was great.
I ended up being quite fond of the voice acting and the cinematics.
They for sure.
Surprisingly well done. I ended up checking through them again a bit ago, and I expected much lower quality, but the voice acting was actually fantastic.
Yes.
I was surprised when I went back to Baldur's Gate 2 recently. I was like, was the voice acting, was that always this good? I actually, usually nostalgia works the other way around, where you go back to an old game, you're like, this isn't as good as I thought it was. For me, it was I went back and I was like, this is fucking amazing. Why didn't I remember it that good? I was like, oh yeah, the game even had voices and stuff, but I didn't remember that. That's pretty interesting. Talking about stories, what do you think about PoE's story? Is it good, bad, well presented, cool characters, generic as fuck? What's the general opinion?
I think PoE has the potential of becoming a great story. I don't think they have presented us with it. I don't think they've done a good job at really. I don't know what they have. If you're the type of player who likes to click of all the texts, I think there's probably a very good story in there. But I hate that thing. I can't. It's so tedious in a game like PoE to do that. I've read all the comics, And I think they were actually great. I think everything up until the Gemling Queen and all that, Malachi, and how that entire world kind of evolved, and like kind of like getting I don't know. The story is I like the things I've seen from PoE, like story wise in PoE. And now Shaper's there, kind of ambiguous. I don't know really who he is, where he comes from, and all that. I think that's cool.
He was retconned. He was
He's
retconned
what?
in.
They
Shaper
rewrote that the whole map story part.
Oh, okay.
They were like, by the way, this is not actually what maps were. Maps are now this, and they rewrote it so that Zana is the daughter of the Shaper and stuff.
Okay.
But I'm okay. Actually, I'm okay with them doing that if the result after that is more interesting and intriguing. Of course, it would be awesome if it was like, we planned this all along and there have been hints before that. That would be amazing. I love when games do that. When like an expansion comes out and you're like, there was this hint all along. There's like a line a character says that everyone remembers, and suddenly you're like, well, in the light of the new content, this actually makes a lot of sense. Oh my god, they have planned this all along. I love when developers do that, but it's so hard to pull off because you have to plan ahead so much. It's very unrealistic for them to pull it off consistently.
I think the when retconning works is when your story is not that impressive or not that engaging that people don't care enough. In which case, the retcon, hey, if you have a better idea, But I don't find that the story is presented well enough. There's a difference between hiding things and giving people who are looking something extra, and just being like, well, first time I went into and fought Malachi, I was like, oh, so what's a Malachi?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I feel about most things in the game. If you don't, like, you really have to go quite far to figure out what the fuck the world of PoE is. Like, even being exiled. Or what the fuck does that even mean?
It means you were guilty of a crime.
Okay, and why do I care?
Good question.
I mean,
because it's like I'm literally. Why do I care that I'm exiled somewhere? Like, why am I going to this Dominus fucker? And now he's like talking to me like, oh, you're whatever. Like, what?
No, I can understand that. Like, every time you got to something new, it wasn't like, oh, I'm working towards this thing, I'm finally doing it. It's just like, what's behind door number 3? Giant Vaal constructy smash thing. Interesting.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Although the story arc of Act 2 is like, I actually like the whole part of like you knock over this ball, like you just like click on it because you can, and you're like, shit.
Yeah,
the first time I did that, I was like, what did I do? I didn't think this would happen. Did I fuck something up? What is this? And then you just like keep walking, and in town everyone is like super pissed at you. It's like, yo, you turned the light off. What the fuck is this? Switch it back on again. How do I do this? You go on top of this pyramid and kill this thing. Okay then. And I didn't read much of it, but that was one point where I was actually like during my first playthrough, I stopped and was like, wait, what did I just do? Maybe I should have read what they are saying. What is this?
The original audio volume of that stupid bowl.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
So loud.
Oh.
Also, the Vaal dying was like this weird squeaking noise that he makes, like this. It's super awesome.
I like Vaal though, like just coming into the fight and everything. Just this ancient contraption. I think that they've done a really good job at like the bosses in general, like having them kind of unique and interesting.
That's one of the things I find maps do worse of, because when you're going through the game, you're getting interesting things. You're not fighting just dudes, and then when you get into maps, it just kind of becomes a little bit more generic because they're copy pasting, and there's only so much they can do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but they introduced. I think they've been a little bit worse when Prophecy they added in the council fight, which were 4 dudes. Then they added Shaper, which is a dude, and it's not that the actual fight mechanics are bad. But, seeing the Vaal constructs, or not the Vaal constructs, the Vaal Oversoul or whatever, that's an interesting thing. That's a very, very memorable thing.
Yes.
A dude with a hat or fucking tentacle face is just Zoidberg. That's what you presented me.
Zoidberg with the hood on his coat. I would also say that there are some Like, for example, Izaro or Izaro or whatever you want to call them, and Vaal always like reminded me, like they look kind of similar. Maybe they come from a similar background or whatever, but they just like their animations and everything just look very similar. They like both smash the ground with a golden glowy thing, and they both like do the same shield charge. Yeah, I don't know. I would love when if they were like, especially as well as map bosses as well, but there would just be like a little bit more different things in there. The mechanics they improved a lot this patch, but the looks of bosses are just often it's just like a meaner version of an existing enemy, for example, or just like the zone bosses revamped.
Okay.
The mechanics are cool though. By the way, I fought like one of the I think Necropolis was one of the tier 12s I didn't do before. That boss is actually pretty interesting. It's like a colossal skeleton who just like Vaal glacial hammers you on the spot. Like you can't move, and then he puts that Bone Spire from Talisman, the spike from the ground that put that dot on you, puts it under you while you are trapped in that thing. And he's just like, fuck you. That was awesome. I didn't expect that. He just trapped you in place and he legit tries to kill you. He just doesn't smack into your direction. He just, fuck you in particular. I like that. So the mechanics are way better, but the design is a bit dish.
I don't mind too much that it's not that interesting when you go into maps. I think it's just important. I think important that the main story arc is just that you have that everything is like all the boss fights are interesting from Act 1 to 4. Yeah. And then when you complete Malachi, then you go into kind of the end game that is this like separate thing. Now with the Shaper being kind of the end game of that system. Though how does Shaper fit into like the whole story arc in general?
He did all the maps. That's the story arc. He did the maps.
But how
Oh, sorry.
But how like what's the map boss then? To him, what's a map boss? Like what is Malachi doing in his world?
Well, okay, so Malachi wanted
like, how can he spawn him in there if we just killed him?
Because his it's a dream fantasy world. And so it's a representation of Malachi, and he's somehow essentially taken remnants of reality and used it as pieces in the world. So he's made a fantasy world of all the things that exist.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's fucking what's that stupid thing? It's Naruto storyline. If anyone's
nope.
Okay, I don't know. I tried.
I know Naruto. I haven't seen the last part, but
story.
Okay, it's the last part then.
Yeah, I haven't seen all the last part, but I could
generic dream sequence.
I can I'm kind of in the middle of that generic dream sequence stuff right now. But yeah, I can kind of follow where you're going with it.
Yeah, and so that's what it is, and it holds up, so that works.
Okay.
But in a way that kind of is not as maybe interesting when it was a bit ambiguous. Because then it's just kind of like, oh, okay, this is all dream stuff. Cool.
Yeah, it would have been kind of interesting, but I like that there's any background story now to maps, because before maps was just like, well, you find these maps and you put them into this thing, and then you see, how does this, nobody knows anything about this. It's just like, it gives experience, I guess. Yay, infinite mobs to slaughter. But nobody actually, like, there was like no explanation at all to this. It was just like, go do it if you want. It's there. Maps. And now it's like there's actually like some background with it. Maybe a bit too much. Maybe they could have left it a little bit more in the dark and a little bit more mysterious. What's happening? How is this? Not sure what's the shape or whatever.
I just like that the zones have a location next to other zones. I really like that. I know that this map is close to this map, and there's a geography that for some reason interests me.
Yeah. You could call it a mind map.
Ooh. That's pretty cool. This world is an illusion, Exile. I think that's the most overinterpreted sentence in the whole game, by the way.
Yeah. That line.
People try to read so much into this. It's just like
that's why you go to the next difficulty, because it's fucking dream within a dream.
Oh, darn! Can we get like an Inception sound, like darn? I want that on I need a button for this. Is there an incentive
Okay.
button?
Get one. There has to be. I'm sure some asshole has that as like their ringtone on their phone.
I think one thing that could be done in PoE though to kind of like further the story is just
Found
have
it.
like
You didn't hear it, but I just pressed the button and it worked.
like adding an intro.
Yeah, an intro.
Just
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Aside from
Just
the character
that.
just saying, I'm this guy, I did this, now I'm exiled. That's like basically the intro we get now, which is not enough.
It did a lot for D2. It does a lot for D3. Like yes, there's the people who truly just care about the mechanics of the game, in which case that doesn't affect them. But it's marketing, it's presentation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to. Even if it's
you don't need to have like chapter like sequences and like movies like from each. Okay, I go from
Just
act
the boat
1
crash.
to just the. Okay.
Because we were
Yeah.
either thrown off the boat or the boat crashed. I can't remember exactly which one it is. But just have the boat crash, like a first-person camera angle of someone struggling to swim to shore, and then boom, you're in the game. You're on the shore.
And then maybe is Dominus who did it to you, right?
Dominus is the one who sentenced you, but
Yeah, but then you
there's
hear
no
this,
indication
like-
he's on the boat.
But just him and you then have in the background like Dominus like giving you the sentence, and then you end up there because now Dominus is now in your mind.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing, because unless you read on the letters to Exile, at the very end it says signed High Templar Dominus, and then Dominus
Yeah.
is not mentioned.
Yeah, but you just want to plant the seed, and the voice acting of Dominus is awesome.
Yes.
It is.
So it's like it's a great way to use like some of that awesome voice acting to really like to get you to plant the seed of like being like the being curious about what's going on in this world, give you some interest and giving you some without giving you any clue whatsoever other than you were sentenced by this guy.
Yeah.
Because you already know that guy. Like from a lore perspective, you have been sentenced and your character knows him. So there's no secret there. There's nothing you shouldn't find a clue about him, because that's actually something he did to you.
Yeah, it's not on any information. And one of the interesting things that it's subtle in the lore. Well, I don't think it's supposed to be subtle. You aren't wrongly accused. None of the characters are wrongly accused.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the Templar. He's not wrongly accused, but what he did is like, it's something where you would be
could
like,
argue was a good thing.
yeah, it was a good thing, and he just got like basically persecuted for his religion and kind of like this stuff. That's, like, the Templar's like the one like kind of good guy. The other people were like, yeah, I killed that guy. Yes, I burned down this house. It's just, I actually don't know the Scion. Sorry, I never heard that.
The Scion murdered her husband
Oh, okay.
on the wedding night using her dark arts or whatever.
It's always the good-looking girls, man.
Yeah, so don't put your dick in crazy. That's a neat thing, and that's why they had the presentation of the help quest is an optional quest when you get the medicine cabinets, because you're supposed to be able to leave the Lionized crew to die.
Oh.
Right. The bandits. That's why you're slaying through them. You're not. That's why Groost isn't happy to see you. That's why rogue exiles are hostile mobs, not allied mobs, because it's supposed to be a fin for yourself survival. But the community of Path of Exile, how they treat trade, how they do all that stuff, and then it does the game doesn't present your character that way at all.
I would love it if you do not help someone, that later on in the story you meet some guy that prompts you with like a dialogue where it's like, why the fuck didn't you help me, or help my father or mother or something, just to make it so that your decisions matter, not in a like you get items or anything, not in an actual like where you can make a wrong choice, but in a grand scheme of things, like a more of a lore perspective.
Not stat wise. It'll
Yeah.
And then here's the thing: a lot of people who don't play or who are new to ARPGs will go through the first difficulty, get to the start again, and like, wait, why would I play this again? And they're done. That's it. If you give them choices that affect their outcome, it will encourage them to do the second and third difficulty, try out their different options,
Yes,
and
that's actually
then you get somebody to maps.
Catching the story players, yeah. That's
Exactly.
actually an interesting thing. I never really thought about it that way.
Not only the story players, also like the hardcore one. Like it just if you make it so that there is something else that can happen and you spark an interest, like even if you're just like a min-maxer, I myself, like when I go into new stories, I'm like I get invested in the story if there's a story that's presented to me. So it's not like it's not only for the story players; it's for everyone. Because like I think anyone can appreciate a good story.
And
like, why do we
interesting
play
ways
games?
of triggering that is actually then from an interesting min-max and the racing perspective. What if you could make story choices that create different encounters? And so certain encounters will be faster on certain builds. Like, maybe like Firestorm's the best because of how leveling is now. But what if triggering these quest options rather than these quest options actually makes it so that, a melee build for whatever fucking retarded reason was kind of the faster option in that. So you could do things that way and you could play around with it.
There's a lot of options definitely there to just explore in general. I actually never thought about that this could be a tool to not even balance the game, but intrigue more players. Because the story, after the first playthrough, the story I think most people just skip it, so you can't forget about it. But there are still people coming in playing for the first time, so to them it still matters. It just kind of completely zoned that out of my mind. Yeah, that's really cool.
I was very disappointed with seeing them that they never really added anything to intrigue new players like that. Mm-hmm. It's been a thing I've really. I've always wanted it just for the sake of the game and the longevity and getting new people, because I feel like it's just the best way of getting more people to get invested in it, to create a story that's interesting.
NL Stormy Knight is saying that argument is bullshit. People who play through the story one time are not the demographic for grindy ARPGs anyways. On top of that, GGG has said long-term they want to eventually have the game to go from 1 to 70 with no difficulties. Do you guys agree with that comment?
The last half was an old statement, I think. They've kind of backpedaled on that as far as I know, and said they are still not sure if they want to get rid of the difficulties or not, or what they want to do exactly. That last part is definitely an old statement. That's what I know about this.
But even then, okay, let's assume that it only goes one time. Are you then, okay, so now you completed the entire story. What then? Do you want to create a new character? What happens then?
Or, starting a new league and not wanting to do that again the exact same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if there were branching story arcs.
It doesn't change it. Just because you don't have acts, it doesn't change the fact that it's still gonna be it's gonna trigger the exact same response in terms of the next, it kind of trigger it prompts you to try it again.
And people playing the game more is probably the objective of the game.
Exactly, that's the entire point.
Yeah.
The replayability of the game and making it interesting every single time.
But what are you talking about? Everyone is fully engaged with cruel difficulty. Everybody. Yes. Borderline.
Oh, I love it.
That's all I do. I just reroll characters to play cruel again.
I know. I'm done and I'm like, fuck. As soon as I kill this character, I can play cruel difficulty again.
Yeah, I think, but yeah, what you just said is a good point. GG will never care why you play the game. The only things they care about is do you play it? How much do you play it? And do you buy any MTXs? That's the three things that GGG should care about. Maybe honestly, why you play it as well, because then they could incentivize it more, but that's on a second part. Maybe
and to Mr. Stormy Knight in the chat, when did you become the arbiter of every grindy ARPG player in the world? Right? It's how are you to decide how I enjoy my game? I can guarantee you there is a vast majority of players who love to have this, who love just playing through the story and having choices. And there are plenty of grindy players who love the same kind of thing while doing their grindy stuff.
Well, another thing was and when you talk about them generating currency, someone that a lot of people know, like Sharon, who creates the shittiest of uniques possible, he plays early game content. That's what he enjoys, to my understanding, and that's what he talks about a lot. So there is players who actually do care about the start, the little lore elements and all of that, who are also have money to put into a game.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't just, oh, if they don't map, fuck them.
It's also that you can't really complain about. There are no story players in this game that has nothing to incentivize story players. I mean, yeah, you can't argue that way around. It's more about changing things to draw these people in. You can't expect someone to play a game that doesn't cater towards any of what they like in video games. So it's kind of like a thing where it goes both ways. You can't just argue from the perspective. Currently, ARPGs don't have any people who play them for the story. Well, that could be because nobody, like, from the development side, nobody actually invested into the story. It's not presented well, and there's no reason to play it for the story. That's why that's not happening. It's not the other way around.
And that goes right into PvP. It's not that there isn't people in Path of Exile that don't or want to PvP. It's that these tools and the community is not given enough to start it really healthily. Went quiet.
Yeah, I was just reading what Mr. Stormy Knight is saying. He said he disagrees completely. The people that are long-term players who are going to invest heavily into MTX, who are going to be long-term players, are those that like the mechanics. But you can play a game like... If someone plays Path of Exile every season for 2 weeks and buys one skin, that's good for the game, that's good for GG, that's awesome. And people, just because you're not a long-term player doesn't mean you don't invest into the game money, like, financially. I have some games that I play, like, very, very every now and then, but I will still, like, I don't know, play League of Legends, like, once a month and buy one skin every now and then. That happens, and that's still money they wouldn't get if they didn't have me. So
also, weird thing. Often people with a lot of money don't have a lot of spare time because they're working for the money.
Yeah.
That's true. I can confirm. Whenever I have money, I don't have time, and when I have time, I don't have
Streamers
don't
have a lot of money because they're playing video games all day.
If you look at a guy like I bet you if you look at a guy like Crip in terms of hours invested versus how many points he then he put into the game, I think you're gonna see a very, very low ratio, right? He has like one pack at one time. I don't know if I remember he played for so long and he had like the cheapest pack after playing for like how many hours? And so this is the guy you're catering to versus the guy who's been in the game for the same amount of time, but then has fucking golden, purple, diamond, cuckoo bird, whatever, right?
Yep. And that's different. There are wealthy people that can put a lot of time. There are wealthy people that can put a short amount of time. Then there's poor people that can put a fuck ton of time. Turns out free games cater to poor people real fucking well.
That's why we have so many people playing on like complete toasters, and GG has to optimize around that because they actually have a big demographic of toaster players. Because
I cannot believe a free-to-play game just refuses to give us like easy options of playing on cheap, like low-end computers.
Yeah, but that
it just blows my mind from the very start. It's like, okay, we have
immersion. Don't sacrifice the immersion.
Oh my god.
The argument that they bring up for that is that people would then maybe turn down the game quality too much. And especially like people on stream and video, and then the first impressions people would be getting would be super low. Yeah, I'm like, but it doesn't help if they watch, I don't know, PT stream and be like, hey, I want to try this game. Like, it seems interesting, and then they install it and it runs at 5 FPS. They're not gonna play it. It's not gonna like.
You think it's better that streamers are sitting there fucking complaining nonstop because their blade vortex makes them lag for 5 seconds?
Yes.
Yeah, I really want to play this game now because like I see this guy like. Boom, freeze. Oh, he died. Oh, he has to make a new character. Whoops.
Let's check the...
I want to experience that as well.
Path of Exile. RIP bullshit. Oh, look. Game crash. Maybe
when we talk about bullshit rips, then you basically
let's check the Reddit. RIP servers.
Yeah, RIP servers is the best thread. I'm always amazed at how fast people get the RIP servers. Like, my game goes down. On my second monitor, I open Reddit and there's already a thread there. I'm like, how is did they have a script for this? What is this?
And then the other thing is the other bullshit part of that argument is, well, the higher quality produced content will have more views because it looks better.
Yeah.
Sure, if you're optimizing for toasters, but somebody's going to have a awesome computer, and that person will be able to have awesome video rendering, and it'll showcase the game, and that will have the most views. Happens all the time. Witcher 3. If you have a computer that can run everything on Witcher 3, it looks beautiful, but you can toaster the shit out of that game if you want to. And that's the thing. The Witcher 3 isn't a worse game because you're allowed to toaster the game. It's irrelevant. Yeah. Some people have a toaster for a reason. They would love a better computer, but guess what? Punishing them for their toaster is just being a dick.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the downside that they're making up is not actually there, because there might be people streaming on toaster quality. I mean, not even that. Like, do you know what it takes to fucking stream stuff? It's not like you can just stream on a toaster as well. It's like, or video record or video edit of all. Like, I have a laptop. I cannot do shit on that thing except for play. I can play PoE somewhat reliably, so I don't die all the time. But I would love to like record when I play or stream maybe at some point. But no, it can't, and it's a good one.
Like, my argument, some of the chat are like thinking I'm trying to like shit talk Crip here. No, my argument is that a guy who, it's because everyone knows who he is, so it's an easy reference. Yeah. So someone who can play that much and invest so little kind of speaks towards the argument that the game, because if there is a player to like just kind of like to represent what PoE should be about for a lot of people, it would be him. And if you're then saying he is the representation of a kind of like the end game, like the player that this game caters towards, and just seeing his investment. So for GDD, like in terms of a player to like a player purchase ratio, like how much they're like that type of player is going to invest into microtransactions, it doesn't make a lot of sense to cater the game towards that type, because it's that type of player doesn't put that much money into the game.
And it's not a monthly subscription model, which means time in is not investment in.
Yeah.
That's a very clear thing. Now, obviously, the more someone plays, the more probability they have. But there's also a reason, that they do the supporter packs the way they do. It is very, just there. You also have to remember, in free-to-play games, there is also a fairly decent demographic of people who will actively go out of their way to spend nothing, even if they could, because turns out people are shit and it's a video game. They don't care. That's not their responsibility. And you can't say they do nothing, because someone who's not paying for the game is still increasing the community population. It's increasing the hit results that it gets on Twitch or YouTube or on Steam. All of these things. It increases the data. It allows for items to exist in trade. They're all very important. You make a free-to-play game because it's a better game to be free-to-play, because it's an advantage for you as a company for people to play your game for free. You are not a charity. Don't confuse the two.
And I think, like what you just said, I think a lot of people underestimate how important, like, having just in general players in a game is. Like, the people who don't pay a cent for Path of Exile, they still improve the experience for everyone else by just being there, generating currency, whatever, being in town, making the game feel alive, all that kind of stuff. It still matters. Like, every player is a benefit to the game. If he pays or not, doesn't matter that much. But a lot of people always think, like, if he doesn't pay, we don't need him. Which I don't think is true.
Yeah, I think it's a very shallow, internet forum argument.
I love myself some internet arguments. Always the best. That's what we're here for, right? Internet arguments.
Exactly.
Oh,
All we need to do is compare somebody to Hitler, and then somebody else has a PhD in who the fuck matters, and we're good.
Yeah, you should just change your beard, I think. Like both of you.
What? I've just got my bag.
We'll shave each other's, mail them to each other, and then paste it on.
That sounds like a good plan.
All right. I think that's about good.
I think that was a podcast.
Was there anything you want to add or bring up, Nugi, before we close the fucker down?
No.
All right.
Right. Do you want to plug yourself, advertise, or something like this, or you just... Where people find you if they are like, hey, this guy doesn't play PoE, where can I find him?
You can find me on twitch.tv/Nugiyen.
Yay!
Where I stream every day.
Every day.
He's been doing WoW. Good. So eventually, I'm sure we'll see him back in PoE here or there. Thanks for chatting with us. We enjoy. Fuck off, everyone. Enjoy your evening, and just remember, your opinions aren't special.